the Durban port has stagnated for a while. The master plan will assist us to overcome some of the infrastructure challenges that Durban has been experiencing, and of course also the deterioration in the state of equipment available at the port. Volumes handled by the terminals have steadily declined by 4% year on year since 2017-18, with only 1.67 million TEUs handled by the terminal in the year 2020-2021. In contrast, some of the competing ports have seen 50% growth in what they are handling. The current private sector participation process, which is not privatization, only involves Pier 2 and not all container terminals at the Port of Durban. The Durban Container Terminal Pier 2, being the largest container terminal in the Port of Durban, with a handling capacity of 2.1 million TEUs per annum, forms an integral part of the container segment revitalization plan and is expected to grow to 4.4 million tons as per the port master plan. In respect of the second part of the question, the board and management are working closely with the trade unions to improve operations and productivity at port and rail. Similarly, the Transnet Board of Directors and Executives, in collaboration with the Department and National Treasury, have developed a Transnet recovery plan to give effect to immediate, short, and long-term reforms in the business at the port. Once finalized, the plan will be implemented and supported by the National Logistics Crisis Committee established by the President, and outcomes will be closely monitored to assure the operational and financial viability and sustainability of the business. Improvement is critical to the national economy, and we are committed to supporting and reforming in the interest of South Africa. I am confident that with these changes, the entity can radically improve its performance in the medium term. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. The first supplementary question is from the Honourable N. Izamini.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Minister, for the response. Honourable Minister, according to the advert by Transnet inviting the private sector to participate at DC Pier 2, Transnet had invested money expanding DC2 to 2.4 TEUs capacity, and the maximum permissible is 2.5. And at Pier 1, the maximum is 5.4, while it's developed at 0.95 TEUs. Why is it that the private sector was not invited to participate at Pier 1 so that we leverage on their money to expand capacity at Pier 1, seeing that we had invested a lot of money at Pier 2, we are only short of 100,000 TEUs to reach maximum capacity? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member. The Honourable Minister.
As I indicated, Chair and Honourable Dlamini, the ambition for the Durban port is that it should become and remain for decades to come and for future generations the main container port as far as South Africa is concerned and Southern Africa as well. Secondly, there's, as I said, a port development plan which involves not just the interior of the port and the various piers, but also the surrounding area around the port as well. And we want to thank the municipality of eThekwini for their cooperation in allowing Transnet to actually ring-fence the port and put up new security provisions around the port as well. The private sector will be invited from time to time, in this instance at Pier 2, to assist in reaching the kind of ambitious volumes that have been set. And at the moment, I'm not in a position to say why the one was chosen and not the other. That is, these are choices that we leave to the Transnet management and the Transnet board as well. But let's keep in mind the overall objective. The overall objective is to grow the volumes, is to deepen the port, is to enable these new vessels which carry much larger volumes of containers around the world to be able to enter the Durban port, which they cannot do at the moment, and thereby increase the volumes that the port can actually handle and provide a service both to the South African economy and the surrounding economy as well. And in that way, Durban becomes increasingly more competitive compared to its neighboring countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Isaac.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, you are fully aware that the Durban port is one of the busiest in the country. In fact, it was a flagship in Southern Africa. The question is that what are the delays in getting the Indonesian concessionaire to the Durban port on board and operational? What is being done now, Minister, to ensure that containers are being effectively moved to avoid the backlogs which have built up due to the current inefficiencies? And this, of course, as you know, is costing the fiscus under your watch. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Isaac.
Chairperson and Honorable Isaac,
Honorable Minister, there
as
are
I
two
pointed
questions
out-
posed to you. You've got an option.
sorry,
That-
Chair.
I'm saying there are two questions that have been posed to you, which is not acceptable.
That's okay. We'll
You've
try
got an
and
option.
answer it
You're welcome.
as part of our generosity. Durban will, if we implement the plans effectively and efficiently and find the capital to do so, which I'm sure we will over time, remain one of the busiest ports in the Southern Hemisphere. And it will also gain in efficiency and effectiveness in areas where it has dropped its performance. Secondly, it's not Indonesia, it's Philippines, Honorable Isaac, and I'm not sure what the internal issues are, but we'll try and find out why some of the delays are actually occurring in terms of bringing in the partner at Pier 2, which is currently scheduled for April 2024. But an additional issue which impacts on the port, which impacts on the kind of service that can be provided, is firstly the floods, which impacted on the what is called the net core or the container corridor between eThekwini and Durban Port and City Deep in Gauteng. And there's a huge amount of damage, some of which has been repaired, some of which still needs to be repaired. There are communities that are coming too close to the railway lines, and I've seen that for myself as well. But there's also a huge amount of vandalism in respect of copper cables and other forms of signaling equipment being stolen as well. So at the moment, the cost to the fiscus is not a serious one. The cost to the fiscus is more on the coal line, the ore line, all of which, under the recovery plan that the board has prepared, we hope to see eliminated within the next 12 months or so. So we will ensure that the partners come on as soon as possible. But more importantly, we need to do some creative financing to find additional cranes at the port side, to find work with the unions to improve their efficiency and effectiveness of the workforce in those areas, and to make them a lot more aware of the kind of competition that they face from now ports that didn't exist in the form that they exist in at the moment. So if we want to be competitive, we must actually up our performance and supply them with the equipment that is necessary in order to be able to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable K.R.J. Mishwe.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Minister. Challenges at the Port of Durban are primarily technical and structural. The need for structural changes was evident in the World Bank report that was published in May of 2021, which ranked the ports of Cape Town, Ngqura, Gqeberha, and Durban as 4 of the worst ports in the world in terms of operational efficiency. Back in 2016, Transnet introduced a state-of-the-art port security system valued at 843 million rands to safeguard customer cargo, port users, as well as Transnet's own port assets, high-definition cameras across the various sites. How many of these cameras are still operational and effective, and whether their installation has contributed in operational efficiency, and if yes, may the Minister please elaborate? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks to Honorable Mishwe. The World Bank report is one that we are familiar with, and it's always good to have independent players to be invited to actually give us their critique of what is going well and what isn't going well. And we would welcome those sorts of critiques to assist us and assist Transnet in improving their performance. Secondly, Transnet is aware of that report, and within the limited financial means that they have at their disposal, they're attending to many of the recommendations that are made in the report itself. The decline that Honorable Mishwe talks about in the various ports can be attributed to the state capture process, to the fact that money was diverted from issues like maintenance of equipment and even buying of certain types of equipment in favor of the 1064 locomotive deal, for example. And that diversion are the consequences that we are suffering today and which we are very determined to overcome. On the issue of the cameras, Chair, I'm not too familiar with how many are working and how many are not, but I will certainly make some inquiries, and if Honorable Mishwe is interested, find those details. So ultimately, we are, and you will find me repeating this quite often today, we have assigned to the board a key responsibility. We want to see a recovery in the performance of Transnet, whether it's ports, whether it's rail, or any other aspect of the key functions that they provide to this economy. We are going to be intolerant of lack of performance. We're going to be intolerant in terms of the dropping of
Honourable Minister, sorry about
Can I
that.
continue?
ICT will attend to that.
Okay. I just have one point to make, and that is that the recovery plan, as we begin to implement it virtually from the 1st of November onwards, will see improvements on all the different fronts. And as I said earlier on, we need some creative financing that will enable Transnet to access the additional equipment that it actually requires. And we're working on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable S. Kwankwa.
Thank you, Chair. It's NLS. The Chairperson, Minister, you are most probably aware that there was an issue recently of drug smuggling at the port where there was a discovery of about 70 million worth of cocaine. Now, you've highlighted the importance of implementing new security measures as we build capacity of the port. What multidisciplinary or departmental measures are being put in place to ensure that we prevent, firstly, the smuggling of drugs at the port, which is a security issue, and other counterfeit goods, to make sure that the South African market is not flooded with counterfeit goods and goods which should not reach our shores? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Kwankwa. I think we must draw a distinction between the infrastructure responsibilities that various entities within the Transnet family have and the services that they provide from the responsibilities of several other departments that operate in a port environment. In particular, the South African police were responsible for detecting those drugs coming in that you have referred to. But more importantly, when it comes to counterfeit goods and so on, the South African Revenue Service has a customs component which has increasingly performed well in trying to get advanced intelligence and try to detect consignments of counterfeit goods and smuggling of things like cigarettes which play an important part in the underground economy in South Africa, even to the extent of funding other types of activities that some of us might actually be familiar with. So I think the key with the establishment of the Border Management Authority in the Department of Home Affairs is going to be how we integrate the work and the information that each of the different departments have, and secondly, ensure that there's a higher level of coordination and cohesion in terms of setting up the detection mechanisms, but also the responses that will ensure that we increase the risk of detection. Because once there's an increase in the risk of detection of illegal activity, invariably the illegal activity begins to become constrained as well. So that's work in progress, and I think as we go on, the BMA will be able to ensure that these different entities work together. And from the Transnet side, as I said, for a port like Durban, there's a whole lot of infrastructure development around the port that will also assist in ensuring that we control entry into and exit from the port, amongst other security features as well. But all of that is in the developmental stage now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Question number 582 has been asked by the Honorable B. Heron to the Minister of Transport. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Members of Parliament. The department supports the taxi industry on various issues affecting the latter. In the recent past, the department held a taxi lekgotla where a number of resolutions were taken. Key amongst them is the formalization of the industry in order to support participation in mainstream public transport. As part of the implementation strategy, the department established the Joint Technical Task Team, and the JTT was tasked with the responsibility of guiding and overseeing the implementation of the resolutions. And of course, the following achievements have been recorded thus far. One, we are formalizing the taxi industry. We're implementation of the revised taxi recapitalization program is happening. Development of an inclusive subsidy policy is also being undertaken. Furthermore, in this regard, we're developing, in fact, we're establishing the taxi recapitalization of South Africa, which is a cooperative, a company or entity which is 60% owned by the taxi industry, with the remaining 40% belonging to a strategic partner. This entity has either commenced in some areas, others it will be commencing soon. It has got the following responsibilities. One, to automate fare collection solution to ensure that there are containers, retailers, spare solutions, the mobile app, APP, which is Yahamba, alternative fuel or LPG solutions, and also a 24-hour service centers. And this is already happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question from the Honorable Heron.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister. Minister, the most recent statistics show that the minibus taxi industry is the dominant mode of public transport in South Africa, transporting over 60% of public transport users. And quite literally, our country would grind to a halt without the minibus taxi industry. And too many regard the taxi industry, in my view, as an informal business, and you've just yourself referred to formalizing it. It is a highly regulated mode of public transport, requiring licenses, convincing planning authorities on the number of licenses, and planning authorities guiding its routes. So it can hardly be regarded as an informal industry or an informal mode of public transport. Much of the conflict that arises between the industry and the authorities arises out of operating licenses and routes. The planning authorities determine the supply and demand as if the industry is incapable of doing so for itself. And this is a paternalistic, sort of outdated mode of determining how many operating licenses should be granted to each minibus taxi route. On the other hand, Minister, when e-hailing arrived in South Africa, operators like Uber were given the opportunity to present business plans and convince planning authorities on how many licenses should be granted based on their anticipated supply and demand. So, Minister, isn't it time that we change the licensing regime in order for the minibus taxi industry to have a greater say in the supply and demand models that planning authorities are using in order to determine the number of licenses being given on each route? And wouldn't this be a great way to support the growth of that industry? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much for the question, Honorable Member. I agree fully with you that most of the commuters in South Africa, they choose, in fact, 70%, they choose the taxi industry as a mode of transport. It is also true that before an operator is granted an operating license, there must be some consultation. It would create a lot of challenges if you don't have the operating license, because it would mean that anyone can operate anywhere. And you, as you have said yourself, many of the conflicts that we see, they emanate from the routes and from the other people who may even not have the operating licenses operating on roads. And I think what we may have to emphasize is to ensure that those that issue operating licenses do consult before they issue an operating license. Sometimes it leads to delays, and then you find that the taxi industry start to operate even without the operating licenses. But I think where the provincial regulating entities are in control and they do their work on time, there aren't challenges as much as probably you might be saying. But sometimes there will be delays, then we have problems, and people get, their cars get impounded when they don't have the operating licenses, sometimes not because of the taxi industry, but because of the PREs that do not issue the operating licenses well on time. But it's a matter that we can look into if you so wish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable M. Ramato.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair, and thank you, Honourable Minister, for your response. Minister, what intervention have the Minister and Department made to reduce conflict between the taxi industry and the Western Cape Provincial Government and the City of Cape Town, and what are the outcomes, if any? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. The conflict between the taxi industry in the Western Cape, particularly in the metro, was emanating from the operating licenses that are cross-referencing another legislation, which is National Road Traffic Act, which sanctions do not carry impoundment, but because they are cross-referencing, they then add a sanction that is not in the National Road Traffic Act, which is impoundment. That is the issue. That was the issue. What we did, we wrote to the MEC Mackenzie, and he responded to us well on time. He indicated that he himself was seeking a legal opinion on the matter. We already had a legal opinion from the senior counsel, which agreed with us, and a legal opinion from the drafters of the NLTA. They also agreed with us. And then, of course, he said he was seeking for a legal opinion. He got it. It fundamentally disagreed with us. And therefore, what we have said is that our National Public Transport Regulator, NPTA, must look into the matter and see if it should not come up with a standard operating procedures for all the PTRs so that this can be done. And then, of course, this will include the Western Cape as well, but also other provinces, because there is a possibility that what is happening here might be happening there. But we believe that what we need to do as the department, as a way of resolving this matter, and probably the ambiguity in the legislation itself, is to amend the section 87(1) of the National Land Transport Act. Otherwise, our view is that the conditions of the operating license must be in line, must be informed by the National Land Transport Act and not cross-reference to another legislation and act a sanction that is not in the National Road Traffic Act, which does not have anything that refers to impoundment. But because now it is used as conditions, then it includes impoundment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable. The third supplementary question is from the Honourable Noluchungu.
Thank you very much. I will take it. Thank you, Chair, and the Minister. Now, the wish list is quite remarkable and good, but it is a fact that the taxi industry is a crucial mode of transport for black people that has been neglected by the government of the ANC. Many promises have been made to formalize the industry since 1997. And there has been numerous imbizos with zero practical steps. Can the ANC government, for the last time, give us the date and time of the implementation of the support or subsidy for the taxi industry?
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. It is not correct to say we have not done anything about the taxi industry. For the mere fact that you have Santaco, it's a product of government intervention. Santaco is not just an association, it is a council. And that is what we are moving towards, to ensure that Santaco operates as a council and not as an association. And I think you'll understand the difference between the two. Secondly, with the issue of subsidy, the subsidization policy in South Africa has always been directed to some and leaving out others. So it's not only the taxi industry, the small bus industry as well is not affected. What we are doing, therefore, one, we're coming up with a policy that is already ready to go to cabinet for public consultation, but also we are ensuring that now the subsidization is not directed on a company, but is directed to passengers. If that is the case, then even the passengers who use the taxi industry will benefit, and therefore the taxi industry will benefit. Whilst we're waiting for that, we're looking at, like I've said, formalizing the taxi industry. The company that I talked about, the TRSA, where the taxi industry will own 60% of the company, and of course we get the partner who will own the 40%. What it means is that it's going to establish your garages where it's going to pour its petrol instead of going to garages that are already happening, that are already existing. That is already happening. The issue of the container retail space solutions is already happening in some areas. We want to extend it to the whole, to South Africa as a whole. So there are things that are happening, but you will also understand the history of this, of the taxi industry, where it comes from. And you will also understand that you cannot just bring the changes willy-nilly. You have got to take it one step forward. Sometimes you take one step forward and you take 2 steps backward. But we are getting there, and we are happy that the sector now is willing to move forward, and we are moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable KP Sitole.
Angibonge sihlalo, ngibonge kakhulu umhlonishwa minister. Engicela ukukubuza kumhlonishwa minister ukuthi inkinga ekhona la Cape Town ukuthi ama-taxi ayathathwa nje ngaphandle kokuthi owner yazi, ngaphandle futhi kokuthi umdriver yazi ukuthi izo-impounder. Manje ngicela ukucheck ukubheka lapho ukuthi uminister ikhona indlela ayenzayo ukulungela lesi simo esila Cape Town, ngoba isimo esizona sase-Cape Town kuphela sithanda uku-affecta namanye ama-provinces. Nokusebenzisana phakathi kahulumeni noSantaco kanye ne-NTA, ngoba i-NTA ngibona njalo isala ngaphandle. Ngiyathokoza.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister.
Siyabonga kakhulu mhlonipheki. I-Cape Town isitshele ne-taxi industry isitshelile ukuthi for now bahleli ndawonye bayakhulumisana. Sikugade kakhulu ke lokho ukuthi leyo nkulumo izogcina ifike kuphi, nokuthi isivumelwane sakhona sisemthethweni na, ngoba uma ngabe for mina uma ngidrive emgaqweni ngeqa i-barrier line nginikezwa i-fine noma ngiboshwe, that kufanele ku-apply kumuntu we-taxi, kufanele ku-apply kumuntu we-truck, kufanele ku-apply kumuntu we-bus. Western Cape basebenzisa lokho ukuthi mina uma ngeqa i-barrier line nginikezwa i-fine noma ngingaboshwa, kodwa emathexini unikezwa i-fine uboshwe u-impoundwe. Ayikho ku-National Rail Traffic Act leye impoundment, bayi-add as a condition. That is where we disagree. Bayi-add as a condition eku-operating license, kodwa ba-cross-reference ku-National Road Traffic Act, kodwa bayifake kwi-condition. That is where we disagree fundamentally with them. And like I'm saying, we do have legal opinions from the senior counsel, even from the drafters of the National Land Transport Act. What we have done, sikhulumisene nabo bathe bahleli bayakhulumisana, zathi asiyivume leyo process uma ngabe bekhulumisana, kodwa silinde ukwazi outcome yaleyo nkulumo ukuthi ithini. Uma ingekho semthethweni, vele kufanele sithathe ama-routes like I've said, sesithe kwi-National Public Transport Regulator, ayibe yenza ibhale phansi ukuthi yini okufanele yenzeka. Kodwa ultimately siyabona ukuthi kungenzeka ukuthi kukhona mhlambe ukungaqondisisi kahle kwesection ye-National Land Transport Act. Ku-National Road Traffic Act alikho igama elithi impoundment uyifunda yonke. Kuphela liku-National Land Transport Act. And therefore the conditions kufanele abe in sync ne-National Land Transport Act, not athathe indawo ka-National Road Traffic Act ayilethe kwa-National Land Transport Act. Ngiyabonga.
Sabonga Mhlonishwa.
Malibongwe uyicacise kahle mama.
Mhlonishwa Nkwangwa. Mhlonishwa Nkwangwa.
Apollo Chairperson, police. Apologies, sir.
Okay. Question number 557 has been asked by the Honorable Monakedi to the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and thank you to Honorable Monakedi for the question, which really deals with two issues. The one is economic concentration in South Africa and its impact on businesses. And the second one is the measures taken by government. So if I start by saying that there are 5 areas of response that I want to highlight within the available time. The first one is the measures directly to deconcentrate the economy. Parliament passed a package of measures through the through the Competition Amendment Act. It provides significant powers to the Competition Authority, and it's allowed us to have market inquiries into, for example, grocery retail in shopping malls. The big players, Spar, Pick n Pay, Shoprite Checkers, have all given up their exclusive leases that they had been locked in for 20 years in many cases that would prevent any other player from coming in. So that's the one set of it, and there are many examples I can give there, panel shops, I can give online platforms and so on. The second measure is money, making funding available through the IDC, the NEF, and the department itself, of course, working in partnership with the Small Business Development Department. The third measure that we've looked at is master plans. Working together with businesses in a sector, let's take the sugar industry as an example, is fundamental to try to get small-scale sugar farmers into the commercial market. So through those measures, we've been able to release 200 million rand a year in partnership with the large sugar players that assist smaller players. The fourth example that I want to give is a broader partnership with the private sector. In many cases, through mergers, we have partnership agreements in which large companies make commitments to promote and support small businesses. And finally, export promotion. It's making sure that small and medium enterprises can get into export markets. And so we assist them, we finance them, we take them to these big exhibitions and import and export platforms globally to enable more South Africans to participate in the opportunities that flow from the export market. So those 5 examples are ways in which we seek to address the impact of economic concentration that chills or reduces the effectiveness of small business entry into the mainstream economy. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I've been informed that the Honorable C. Malemacha will take charge of the first question on behalf of the Honorable Monakedi in accordance with Rule 137(10)(a). I now recognize the Honorable C. Malemacha.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, the Competition Commission recommended in its Economic Concentration Report in 2021 that funding constraint in government means that private sector financial institutions should do more in funding the development of SMEs owned by the previously disadvantaged persons. What has the department done to ensure that private financial institutions are able to contribute towards the development of SMEs? Are there concrete targets that have been set? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Honourable Malimacha, for the question. There are a few measures that the department has in place now to try to unlock more support from the private sector, given our own fiscal constraints. One example of that is the partnership that we have with large companies that I spoke of, where they procure more locally, particularly from small and medium enterprises. Over the period of this administration to date, we have about 19 billion rand in procurement commitments by large companies, of which our estimate is that 85 to 90% of that would be directed to small and medium enterprises. A second example of what we do are supplier development funds. In a merger, let's take the example of Shoprite Checkers. When Shoprite Checkers bought the Massmart stores as part of a merger transaction, we secured a commitment to protect jobs, but we also got Shoprite to commit to make resources available to small and medium enterprises. And they put together a fund that would support small-scale farmers. They also committed that they would procure within a 5-year period 500 million rand in additional food supplies from South Africans, particularly small and medium enterprises that they would normally have imported from elsewhere in the world that they now bring into their supply chain. So those are a few examples of it. The IDC itself enters into partnership together with the National Empowerment Fund. If I take the NEF as a good example, they would enter into an agreement with a large oil company to ensure that support is given to get more smaller businesses into owning these garage franchises in order to enable more people to enter. And so the IDC would then administer the money of these oil companies. So given the fiscal constraints that Honourable Malimacha has referred to, we've had to be creative to try to unlock resources elsewhere in the economy. Of course, we also work with the large banking and other financial institutions. Sometimes when the IDC goes into a big transaction, then it seeks to de-risk it by entering into a partnership with another financial institution so that you leverage the combined resources of different institutions. So those are a few examples of it. As regards targets, we've set a target in the annual performance plan of the department this year of 30 billion rand that we want to be able to mobilize across the public and private sectors. The resources that is voted on by Parliament would be a tiny portion of that. We rely for the rest on the balance sheets of the development finance institutions and on the kind of partnerships with large companies. We have those partnerships now with companies like PepsiCo, with Coca-Cola, with Heineken, with Shoprite Checkers that I've mentioned, with a number of other companies. And it's about unlocking resources and helping to make those available to young South Africans, to small businesses that are run by South Africans, so that we can broaden the base of the economy and deal with the pernicious challenge of excessive concentration that limits the ability of smaller players to succeed in the market. So the combination of funding that we mobilize ourselves, funding we can mobilize from partners, and importantly, the regulatory reform with the changes in the Competition Act have given us an important set of tools. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. The second supplementary question is from the Honourable F.J. Mulder.
Thank you, Honourable House Chief, Honourable Minister Patel. While recognizing that small, micro and medium enterprises can offer great untapped potential for employment and economic growth, and considering the unfortunate higher rate of failure of the sector due to a lack of skills, information and competitiveness, what plans have the department in place to eradicate the lack of support from the relevant departments, for instance, local government, small business and ESCOM, that hinders the way of SMEs to become more sustainable in industrial parks, for instance? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Well, first, can I thank Honourable Mulder for that question? We've recognized that the constraint that small and medium enterprises face to succeed is it's not solely a financial constraint. Yes, access to finance is an important element, but it's not the only element. And so we've put in place a set of measures to try to assist. To address the energy challenge, Honorable Mulder mentioned the Eskom issue, we've launched now a 1.3 billion rand energy resilience fund that is directed particularly to small and medium enterprises to assist them to de-risk during the period while power stations are being fixed. To address the challenges that are often found at local government level, we've set up a division or a unit in the DTIC called Invest SA. And Invest SA's principal job is to try to unblock challenges that firms and companies have. Sometimes it's a business license. Sometimes it's a zoning application. And they deal with those kind of things, and we report from time to time to the portfolio committee on those kind of things. The third element that Honorable Mulder raised was sometimes lack of experience. And to address that, we've now begun to find ways in which we can build more mentorships with smaller businesses. Not only mentorships between a large business and a small business, although that's important, but we launched last year a Black Exporters Network that brings together, in many cases, medium-sized businesses that are exporters, where they share experience with each other. They become a mentorship team to each other with the opportunity to learn from each other. So those are a few examples in which we try to address the experience gap that small and medium-sized enterprises very often would face. There are a few more examples, but I recognize within the available time, I should perhaps rest on those ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The third supplementary question is from the Honourable M3.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, in the United States, nearly 27 million small businesses generate about 50% of their GDP. In China, SMEs contribute over 60% of total GDP, 50% of tax income, 79% of job creation, and 68% of exports. In South Africa, SMMEs account for only 28% of jobs. Based on international trends, this should be about 60 to 70%. Now, structural reforms tackle obstacles to the fundamental drivers of growth by supporting labor, product, and service markets, thereby encouraging job creation and investment and improving productivity. Minister, noting the inability of some government policies to assist SMMEs and the poor state of our economy, what new innovative structural reforms does your department have to assist SMMEs to become a part of the industrialization program in South Africa? And if they exist, when will they be implemented? If none, why not? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
First, thank you very much, Honourable Tring, for the question. So let me start by referring honourable members to a seminal report that was issued in December 2021 by the Competition Commission. And Honourable Tring and other members of this august House would find that report very interesting reading. Because what it does, it sketches out not only the levels of economic concentration, but also the impact of that economic concentration on small businesses in South Africa. And it draws a direct line that when you have such a highly concentrated economy, the opportunities for small businesses to thrive is significantly limited. Small businesses are stunted by the very dominance of some of the markets in the South African economy. So what we did was we launched a program of structural reforms through the amendment to one key part of the Competition Act that enables the competition authorities now to basically impose remedies where the structure of a market inhibits the opportunities for small businesses. Prior to that, it was only the conduct of firms that could be dealt with. But Honourable Tring asked about structure, and that's what the new section of the Act deals with. It's the market inquiry. Very recently, we did a market inquiry on online commercial platforms. And the report of the market inquiry imposed a number of structural remedies on businesses in that sector, varying from your takealot.coms to large global companies like Apple, Booking.com, and many others. And what they did, they tried to change the dynamic in a sector to enable more players to come in, so that it's not only about making money available, it's changing the structural features that inhibit. So if I may briefly give an example, if you take small players in a township, they want to enter the delivery market. The big franchises that runs the big fast food stores impose on their businesses in townships that those businesses may only use Uber Eats. So you have a young person in a township wanting to run a delivery service, but they precluded from it because there's a condition attached to the franchise arrangement. Now, the Competition Authority has made it very clear that that is anti-competitive, and it has made a finding on that, and that finding is binding except if it's challenged. There are a few small number of players that have challenged it and are taking us to court on it, but for the rest, the large players have largely accepted that, and so that is a structural problem and a structural remedy. So that's an example of what we're doing now. We're now building the capacity of the competition authorities to be able to do this on scale, because we need to do it not just in one or two sectors, but across the economy, because concentration is not confined to a few small places. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The last supplementary question is from the Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Minister, as the head of trade and industry, I hope that you will initiate a process to suspend all trade with apartheid Zionist Israel until they comply with all the agreements to stop the atrocities against the Palestinian people. But very importantly, Minister, I know that the ANC particularly repeatedly talk about a caring government that listens to the people. And I repeatedly raised in this House the high unemployment rate amongst the youth and how we should introduce hairdressing, barbers, beauty. And I must congratulate government for that. I see you have just introduced that, and you are providing funding, NSFAS funding for those that want to enter hairdressing and others. So congratulations to that. Thank you very much, because I think you'll create a lot of jobs. Now, you know, Minister, we talk about competition, and I think a lot of your emphasis in this question, I had a different question for you, but I'll go on the issue of competition. In the airline industry right now, how it is being manipulated by some of them, that you would find a flight from Durban to Johannesburg can shoot up to 3,500 rand at any given time. Manipulated by the bigger airlines particularly. And yet I want to tell you, you have an airline like Kemair or Semair, the small one. What an excellent service they provide. But because of the manipulation by airlines like Safair and others, these airlines eventually shut down. What measures is your department putting to deal with that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sheikh Imam, for that question. I was very worried as Honorable Sheikh Imam started the question on hairdressers and barbers, that it was perhaps aiming at a criticism of me for not clearly utilizing those services sufficiently. But on a more serious note, thank you very much, Honorable Sheikh Imam, for the comments that you've made on the hairdressers and barbers. They're an important opportunity for young people, as would be things like panel beating. And so what we found with panel beating, to link that to competition measures, is many of the insurance companies historically only put large companies on their panels. And when you are insured, you can only go to one of those large players. And many honorable members will know how expensive it is to go to those. Now, you don't pay it directly, it's paid by the insurance, but you pay it indirectly through the premiums that go up. So we've had an investigation of that, And the Competition Authority has reached an agreement with the large insurance companies that needs to be opened up to smaller players, to township players, and so on. The only question is quality. It's not whether you have historically had a relationship or you're a golfing partner of someone. That's what competition is about. As regards airlines, it is a significant concern to us. We've seen a tendency, not only in South Africa, but globally, in the last period, particularly after COVID. It's called surge pricing. And surge pricing is where companies increasingly put prices up enormously during periods when there are significant shortages or very high levels of demand. If you go now to any international conference, you pay an enormous sum for hotels, because the hotels coordinate their pricing with the activities that happen, and they're able, through surge pricing, to extract more than is a fair return for the capital that they've deployed. It is an issue that competition authorities across the world are looking at. How does one deal with surge pricing? At what stage does surge pricing become excessive pricing? Excessive pricing is prohibited in our legislation, and excessive pricing only arises in our law when you have a dominant player, where the dominant player puts prices up in a way that is not economically justifiable, and they do so because there's an absence of competitors that can come in at a lower price, undercut them, and give the consumer a good service. So this is an area, Honorable Imam Sheikh Imam, you've raised absolutely the right focus, and it is an area we will have to look at. Obviously, we only have the tools available in the Competition Act, so there are some constraints in what can be done, but this is an area I'm going to ask the competition authorities to have another look to see what are the patterns. They're doing an excellent job at the moment in tracking food prices, but there's obviously some other areas that we also need to look at. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Question number 597 has been asked by the Honorable Sitlulo to the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, House Chair. We welcome the question. The incident of construction mafia are dealt with by relevant law enforcement agencies, including the South African Police Services, because this is a criminal activity. Disruption, intimidation, extortion are all criminal and should be dealt with as such. The Department of Public Works does not make actual arrest, because actual arrest must be made by the law enforcement agencies. Whilst we don't make actual arrest or keep record, but we obtain record and statistics from time to time from South African Police Services, which is the only competent authority to keep such information. And therefore, the total number of 682 which we have reported emerge from that process. Thanks, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Sitlulo.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Minister, in 2019, in your capacity as a then Premier of KZN, you attended an event that was attended by numerous business forums, including one of the pioneer groupings in the construction mafia networks, Delangokubona, essentially legitimizing the activities of the construction mafia by participating in gatherings graced by groups such as Delangokubona. The minister is on record as having said that 200 arrests have been made in relation to the construction mafia. You upped this number to 600 during a panel discussion on the JJ Tabani show. In a statement where you threatened the DA to withdraw our statement, having called you on this disinformation, you went on to say that you will provide evidence in relation to these arrests. Minister, the reality is that you have failed to provide any evidence to support your disinformation campaign. The reality is that while the National Forum on the Construction Mafia has been a spectacular failure due to its exclusion of critical stakeholders, the DA is the only party that has taken a firm stand against the growing culture of impunity against organized crimes in areas where we govern, with the DA-led city government mayor, Jordan Hill-Lewis, and his team having launched a 24-hour hotline to report extortion to tackle crimes related to the construction projects in the city. With that said, Honorable Minister, you claim that the SABC is the only institution that is able to provide you with figures in this regard. However, the reality is that SABC failed to respond to the DA's prior application to confirm your particular statistics in terms of these arrests. Can the minister put it on record in this house if indeed these are the arrests and if he obtained them directly from SABC? Thank you.
Honorable Minister, thank you, Ndadisa. Honorable Minister.
Thank you. Firstly, on the issue of statistics, I would like to repeat what I've said. The only competent authority in this country which can arrest a person is the South African Police Service.
Chairperson, on a point of order.
Therefore,
on a point of order.
Honorable
Therefore,
Chairperson, on a point of order.
No, Honorable Minister, just hold it for a sec. That is true. I get on that. Now, the Tona Lea Araba, he is responding to your question. So I will not allow any interaction from you. So please do not disturb him. Let him go ahead and answer your question. Go ahead, Honorable Minister.
now, the member make a statement, long statement, and answer then a supplementary question. We continue to interact with different groupings at various levels of government. Some of these various groupings come from the real people who want to participate in economic emancipation. Africans and blacks in general were oppressed in this country for more than 342 years. It is therefore important that we fast-track transformation. There is no sector that must be kept as an esclave of a particular group, and these include construction and property as sectors that can grow the South African economy. And therefore, we shall never support criminal activities, but people who come forward eager to get support on ensuring that they are participating in these industries, we will provide them the support. That will include ensuring that they are enlightened on the access to opportunities, they are trained, they also compete with others based on the legislations of our country.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Ntobongwana.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Minister, as we know that this construction mafia delay service delivery, what plans and programs have the department and its entities put in place to deal with this construction mafia to avoid delays in infrastructure development and construction, as well as what progress have been made to date to deal with this sketch? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Tobongwana. The government has enhanced capacity and provided more resources to law enforcement agencies to investigate and prosecute construction-related crimes. To date, government through SAPS has established a dedicated unit to deal with this organized crime. The special task force exists within the police. Together with the Directorate of Priority Crime, we have established the infrastructure built anti-corruption forum, which focused on the implementation of various initiatives that are dealing with corruption in this sector, but also deals with the issue of construction mafia. Through this forum, we're mobilizing multi-stakeholder participation from both the public and private sector to ensure that we collaborate in the fight against construction mafia, fraud, and corruption in the industry. As government, we have set up a system to ensure community facilitation and public facilitation through which we We will ensure that projects are implemented without hindrance in each and every municipality through local government participating in driving stakeholder management. More than that, we have a policy commitment of localization and ensure community participation. And we will want to see the industry ensuring that a particular percentage in spend procurement is spent on local communities, but also is spent on the manufactured tools that are manufactured domestically in the country. And that's what we are doing as the department.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. The third supplementary question is asked by the Honorable M. Siwisa.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, we hear your response to the question posed, and I hope that somewhere down the line we will not get a different answer, because this department has a tendency of answering questions depending on who is asking the question and at what platform. Nonetheless, let me ask my follow-up question. The construction mafia is caused by tenders that milk the state dry, and everyone fights for enrichment without focusing on service delivery. Tenders are seen as a quick enrichment scheme. Thus, construction mafia is the order of the day. Are the construction companies that eventually win to be given construction work registered with the relevant entities, and how many of them, before manipulating the system through the bullying, have had successful projects that have been completed on time under the budget allocated without failure? Thank you.
Thank you. I will not want to mention companies.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Sorry, Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Siwisa. Companies that get work from government are registered in the CIDP. We are strengthening the process of CIDP, not only to be complacent or to be talking about requirement alone, especially financial requirement. We want to see the capacity. If you say you are grade 7, we must also know the skills you have in terms of your engineers and all others professions that are needed in this regard. There are a number of projects that have been completed on time, within budget. But I will not be mentioning those for the not promoting certain individuals who are constructors in this regard. May I also expand to say the government is working on ensuring that we cut cost that comes with construction. Through Infrastructure South Africa, we are standardizing the designs of the buildings. For police stations, for clinics, and all such buildings, we are now going to have standard design just based on what is the category of the building that is required. And therefore, we will save more resources from spending on design and professional services, but instead channel toward ensuring that construction is happening on site for all departments and all our infrastructure projects. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Van Staden.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Minister, on the 31st of July this year, you announced that construction mafias have cost the economy 68 billion rand. It is also known that these mafias do not respect any court interdict when it comes to efforts to curb these activities. Can the Minister indicate if a police unit that is now in place due to the intervention of the President have bear any positive outcomes in the combating of these mafias, and if so, can you give us the relevant details of these outcomes, and if not, why not? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you. I will say yes, but not only the police or the unit, both the unit and the intervention on the issue of facilitation. There are a number of projects that have been stopped before, which are going smoothly now. I may speak about one project that was delayed for a long period in Pretoria, Salvacorp, which is a precinct where we're building a government building which will accommodate different departments. And that was delayed for some time, and through facilitation and these units, we have been able to address issues. Because what is important is to separate criminal intentions and activities from genuine interest of people who want to participate in the construction. So such buildings are continuing. The Durban Court is one of such examples where the three spheres of government intervene and work with local communities to ensure that the construction is taking place with no disruption. At the initial phase, the project was delayed because of these people who wanted to get tenders through subcontracting. There was a facilitation and the swift arrest made by police. As a result, those who wanted to participate in the construction processes were enrolled and they were then given opportunities through proper processes. And therefore, I would say there is progress. And you're beginning to see a number of programs or projects that were implementing countrywide are moving smoothly, with the exception of few areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. As we move to question 599, I want to remind members that a supplementary question may not consist of more than one question. Should it happen that a member finds himself or herself in top flight, the minister has the liberty to reply accordingly, whether it does or it does not. The question number 599 has been asked by the Honorable Mautwe to the Minister of Public Enterprise. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. We have looked into various matters affecting state-owned companies. But what is critical is to understand the roles of the different parties that are involved in an SOC. The shareholders' role is to hold boards to account in terms of the strategy and the shareholder compact that is developed between the entity and the department. The boards have a responsibility in fiduciary terms to ensure that there's a proper strategy in place, but that management is executing that strategy. Management's responsibility is to execute and to perform according to the KPIs developed both by the entity itself and the department with them. And where there is non-performance or poor performance, the boards must take the appropriate actions. So I have indeed tasked various boards with developing and executing turnaround plans or recovery plans to drastically improve performance in their respective areas. Let me give you some examples from Transnet. Transnet reported a 5.7 billion rand loss in the financial year that ended in March 2023. And although it made a 5 billion rand profit in the previous year, much of that is attributable to a change in valuation of property. Secondly, the mining industry accounts for 80% of state-owned Transnet's rail volumes and 50% of Transnet's overall revenue, plus minus. And this has...
We can't hear, Chairperson.
This has been a major casualty in terms of the performance of rail in Transnet. The decline in rail had a direct 50 billion rand loss in commodity exports in 2022. South Africa's mining companies estimate that transferring their commodities from rail to road has cost them 500 million rands extra annually in order to get their commodities to the port. Similarly, the declining rail volumes have featured in this lack of performance as well, and we've seen a decline from 226 million tons in the years 2017-18 to 173 million tons in 21-22, and a further decline to 149 million tons in 22-23. We've seen decreased revenue to Transnet, losses to the mining industry, and losses to the fiscus as well in terms of fiscal income. Accordingly, I've directed the board on the 1st of September to undertake the following: an operational transformation to radically improve operations at Transnet, identify the root causes that are resulting in these problems, to ensure that there's rigorous accountability and oversight, together with the National Logistics Crisis Committee, which I mentioned earlier, that the digitization of systems and the availability transparently of data on performance must become an urgent matter for the board and management to implement, and rigorous systems of controls to comply with the Auditor General's findings as well. Ultimately, this is a matter neither of race nor gender. It's about performance and delivery by an SOC. Similarly, in response to the second part of the question, there isn't a bigger problem. The key problem is whether management is delivering what it is supposed to deliver. So in the interim, whilst we've seen a few departures, there certainly haven't been too many. Whilst these processes are underway of recruiting people into these key positions, the organizations have appointed interim executive directors, prescribed officers from within the existing management structures, and these individuals have sufficient operational experience to guide the entity into the future. The boards of the respective entities have given an assurance, and we maintain a clear oversight over their performance, that they will do everything possible to implement their recovery plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Tseki, next time, please try to find Tseki, an innovative manner of raising your objection, because you might find yourself disconnected. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable C. Mautwe.
The follow-up question, Chair. Thank you, Chair. This is a follow-up question asked on behalf of TG Commissar Pile Mautwe. As the EFF, we said before that, as the minister, you have an anti-black people agenda. You hire only white people. Wait. You hire only white people.
Honorable member, there's a point of order.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm rising on Rule 85. A member cannot just bluntly say another member is anti a particular race. I think it's not parliamentary. It must come to a substantive motion.
What rule is that?
No, on a point of order. On a point of order.
Honorable Sangwene, just...
On a point of order, Chair.
I'm dealing with a point of order, so please, honorable members, I refer you to Rule 85. No member may impute improper motives to any other member or cast personal reflections upon a member's integrity or dignity, or verbally abuse a member in any other way. A member who wishes to bring any improper or unethical conduct on the part of another member to the attention of the House may do so only by way of a separate substantive motion. So, honorable member, it's not proper to comment the way you did. Could you kindly withdraw what you have said?
I raised on a point of order, Chair.
There's a point of order.
Honorable member from the EFF, I've requested you to withdraw.
Chair, my whip has just raised a point of order. Can you attend to it?
No. I won't entertain it until we are through with you. Could you please withdraw that statement?
But Chair, I'm raising on a point of order
I will
because
address you, honorable member, once I'm done with the
so now we're not going to be able to say anything in this house.
No, you will be.
It's protected by freedom of speech of this
nothing
house.
to do with it. Please allow us to finish.
If
this
you are in the
first.
business of protecting Praveen, not on our
ICT,
name.
could you please disconnect Honorable Tlawine?
You
Could
have
you
become
please
apologist.
disconnect
If you are in the business of protecting,
so that we are able to go ahead with the business of the day? She's disturbing us. Could you please disconnect?
Chair, what must you withdraw? There's nothing to withdraw here. So we must be made to withdraw the truth.
but state of Praveen, you are state of Praveen.
Withdraw the truth. We can't withdraw the truth.
ICT, could you please disconnect the Honorable Shikwamba as well?
Chair, do not be emotional.
Honorable member.
Don't be emotional, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable member, I have requested you to withdraw the comments that you have made.
But Honorable Chairperson, it's very unfair that a member from the ruling party rises on a point of order and our members are not given an opportunity to rise on a point of order. And then they are going to be told that they must be removed from the system.
Honorable member, I will attend to those people who raise points of order, including your members from the EFF. But okwamanje sicela ukuthi sidlule kule. Could you please withdraw your comments before we attend to the Honorable Ntlangwini and the others?
Which comment? What must you withdraw? What must you withdraw? Which comment?
ICT, you take too long to respond to our request. The honorable member, please go ahead.
I think ICT understands that there's freedom of speech, but I will withdraw, Chair. I will withdraw.
Thank you very much.
When you hire black
Thank you.
executive,
Thank you
you
very much.
hire them because you know that they will treat you like a mini god. We know
Honourable
that you are
member,
not
there's another point
interested
of
in
order.
hiring. You are
Honourable
not
member, there's
interested
another
in
point of
hiring
order.
competent black executives. You accuse them of
Honourable
conspiracy
member.
and open cases against them. What gives you the legitimacy to even lead such an investigation, because it will lack credibility?
Obviously, member, you are not prepared to observe the rules of the House. What we are doing it deliberately to disturb the flow of the debate in the House. And that will not be tolerated at any given moment. You might have an opportunity to pose another question. Should you do that, should you behave the manner in which you did, I will have no alternative but to request you to recuse yourself from the House. That is totally unacceptable. Honorable Chief from the
House Chair, I just want to go back to your ruling around Rule 85, and the reason why is because I just want to understand. Excuse me, may I please finish my point?
Okay, give it a chance.
I would like to understand which word was used, which was unparliamentary, so that my own members don't make the same mistake. I don't quite understand what was said by the member which has been ruled out of order. Thanks, House Chair.
Thank you very much. I will address it before the end of this session. Honorable Ntlangwini, you raised a point of order. What is your point of order?
Chair, you removed him. You removed him.
Okay.
But Chair, this is a sign of you having lost control of the House. You don't even know that you have removed the member.
Honorable Pambo.
What is this?
Honorable Pambo, please. ICT, if Honorable Pambo goes ahead, also you'll have to disconnect him.
Point of order, Chair.
The members of the EFF behave the manner in which they do, we shall have to respect.
Point of order, Chair.
What is your point of order, Honorable Pambo?
Chairperson, it seems like we are not equal members in this parliament. You're not even aware that you have removed a member. You haven't told us why she must withdraw. She just withdrew because she wants the...
Member?
No, the order is on you, Chairperson,
Okay.
that you are impartial.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable member, what's your point of order? You're raising a hand.
Chair, I wanted to indicate to you that can you please allow Honorable Pambo to speak because he was raising a point of order.
And return Natasha. Commissioner Natasha must come back, Chair.
And also Honorable Shikwambane, also return him.
Because you've got no basis. You've just proven that you've got no basis for removing them in the house.
Could you please disconnect Honorable Pambo?
And Chairperson, it seems as though you don't understand what is order. Can you don't understand yourself.
Could you please disconnect Honorable Pambo?
Speaker, wait, Chair. Chair. Chair.
I'm sure she's disconnected.
Chair.
Honorable member, what is your point of order?
I want to know, Chair, why is Honorable Pambo removed from the house? Why did you just disconnect him? What did he do? Can we be told?
Honorable member, please take your seat. I'm not in a position to explain it. Honorable
Chair.
Sengwa. Honorable member.
Thank you very much, Chair.
I mean, you are in the house. You understand the proceedings. You hear the proceedings. I cannot be answerable to that kind of questions.
Yeah,
Honorable
Chairperson, but your judgment is very much biased.
Honorable member, please take your seat.
We deserve to know. You can't just be disconnected and you don't explain yourself. You need to explain how did you arrive at that
Honorable
decision you've just
Sergeant
made.
of Arms.
No.
Honorable Sergeant of Arms.
Of order, Chair.
Help.
This new
No,
member.
Chairperson, that is very much unfair of you to
help
do
the
that.
honorable member
Why
out of
are
the
you
house.
calling the agent of arms
Could
of
you
yours
please
then?
help her out
Why
of
are
the
you
house?
doing that?
Yeah,
Why
remember,
are you
that's
doing
this new
that,
member. You
Chairperson?
don't know the rules.
Why?
Point of order, Chair.
Noted you, Honorable Sengwa.
Point of order, Chair.
I've noted you, Honorable Manye.
Chairperson, we can't hear, or have you also removed us?
Honorable member, I have requested the Sergeant of Arms to help you out of the house.
But Chairperson, why do you do that?
You seem to refuse.
Why do you do that, Chairperson?
Do that. I will ask you again. Please leave the house.
Chairperson, why are you doing that?
Please
Can you explain why are you
leave the
doing
house.
that?
But you are wrong, Chair. You know it. You are wrong. You are removing our members because the Prime Minister is here. Go. Questions to the Prime Minister. Praveen is a
There's no go in the house there.
Has become
You must bring
a
woman,
bring a woman.
Sergeant at Arms, could you please request
No, man,
security
no touch a woman.
to take her
Bring
out?
the woman. Bring the woman.
You are wasting our time when you remove Honorable Tangwin, you remove Honorable
Chairperson, I think you are the one who's supposed to be removed there.
You don't want to explain yourself.
Chairperson, I think you need to be removed. We must remove you there. You are causing chaos. Chairperson, you are not in control of this meeting. The chairperson must go.
Honorable
We
member.
need another chairperson on the bench.
Chairperson, thank you very much. If
I may beg your indulgence momentarily on a matter I've raised in this house before during a question session, that every time we have the kind of interjections that eat into question time is compromised because the question session is between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock. There's no injury time, you don't have stoppage time like rugby. And once again, I beg your indulgence, Chairperson, to look into this matter to ensure that the business of the House does not actually lose the minimal time that actually is required. This has got nothing to do with the Ethics Committee. It's got everything to do with members of Parliament maximally using the time available to them for the question of Lontuzane. Mina nawe singaficana phandle. Khululeke nje impi yakho ngivangayo.
Address me, Honorable Sengwa. Just address me, Honorable Sengwa. Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, it is unfortunate that we have to go through this kind of business, honorable members. It is unfortunate, but we have the rules. We have the rules of the House that are agreed to by all of us, no matter your political affiliation, but we have the rules that we all adhere to and we recognize and respect. So it is important that the decorum of the House be respected by all of us equally. The Honorable Mani had raised a point of order. Honorable Mani?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm raising the point of order on you, Chair, because the rules of the House that you are talking about guide everyone, including the Chair, that before anybody is removed, you have a duty to bring to the attention of the member what the issue is, and we have a duty to give a member a fair warning before you check a person out. Honorable Pambo was never not given not one warning, did not defy any of your rules, simply because you didn't like the manner in which he engaged, you just checked him out. So I want to say to you, Chair, I think you actually you just bulldozed the process.
Thank you
I want to ask you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mani. I don't know on which platform you are, Honorable Mani, but I did all that you said I did not do. I did it. Shall we continue, honorable members? Where were we before I was rudely interrupted? The minister was supposed to respond. Honorable Minister, could you please respond to the question of the honorable?
Point of order, Chair.
Honorable Mzwandile, please.
Point of order, Chair.
Honorable Mzwanele, please. Honorable Minister, could you please continue?
Point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair. I have a right to raise a point of order, Chair. I'm raising a
point of order, Honorable Mzwanele.
Point of order, Chair, is that when people are raising point of orders, it's unparliamentary for you to say you are being rudely interrupted. How can you be rudely interrupted when...
Honorable Manye, we would like to continue, sir, with the work, with the business of the day.
People are exercising the rules. The rules of the House is unacceptable.
In this manner, I'm going to disconnect you. I will disconnect you if you continue this way.
Which way, Chairperson? Which way, Chairperson? Raising a point of order and explaining myself what is the issue. Is that a problem for you, Chair?
Honorable Manye, please stop what you are doing. Please stop what you are doing. Just stop it.
Chairperson. Chairperson. Chairperson.
Honorable members, I'm not going to entertain this again.
Chairperson.
Allow the minister to
Chairperson.
question. And,
Chairperson.
Honorable member, please, I am not going to allow this to go ahead. Please,
Chairperson,
allow us to go ahead with the work of the day.
that is the right. Chairperson,
Chair, there's nothing to respond to. Thank you.
Thank you.
yo.
That's what we call being rude.
Yo. Chairperson, what is the kind of chairperson is?
Say, could you please disconnect that member?
You are sensitive, Chairperson. What is your problem?
Honorable Sonti, please just disconnect. Should be disconnected.
For what that reason? For what? Awuzazwenzani wena?
Why you like that? Joke, Chairperson. This is not a Chairperson. This is not a joke.
Chairperson, why do you remove Honorable Sonti? Chairperson, why do you remove Honorable Sonti? Because she was not rude. She was not rude. Like you say, people are rude.
ICT.
Chairperson, why do you remove Honorable Sonti? She was
will
never
not
rude
allow
when she was talking
the
to you.
EFF to turn those members on the virtual platform of the EFF.
Yes, Chairperson.
Create
Honorable Sonti was never rude to you.
Don't know what is
going on around you.
Honorable Leticia should be disconnected.
Chairperson, who
Honorable
was rude to
Sonti
you?
should be moved from the platform. All those members that I've mentioned should please be removed from the platform.
But Chairperson, we are not fair, really. The manner that we are conducting the whole thing.
Honorable members, can I bring the following to your attention? A point of order or a question of privilege is only allowed if it calls attention to a transgression of a rule or unaccepted parliamentary practice or privilege. The freedom of speech is one of the privileges that members enjoy in the exercise of their constitutional obligation to represent their constituencies. This privilege is subject to the rules and orders. Honorable members, spurious points of order or questions of privilege or raising a point of order that has already been ruled upon is an abuse of the rules and the privilege of freedom of speech. If honorable members persist in doing so, such conduct will be regarded as an abuse of the rules and an abuse of the privilege of freedom of speech. For this reason, I will accordingly order the honorable members that such behavior is totally unacceptable. The exercise that we have just embarked on was not necessary. It totally was not necessary. So I would request that members allow us to continue with the business of the day because time is of essence. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable N. Mkwanazi.
Thank you, House Chair. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for providing with a detailed assisting answer. Honorable Minister, since the ANC-led government has inherited a racial skewed public service, where a large percentage of civil servants were emanated from the apartheid regime, Honorable Minister, what has the Department of Public Enterprise done thus far to place a previously disadvantaged professionals with the right skills and right competencies within the right place in order to provide, for them to provide innovative solutions to address complex operation and financial challenges across SOCs. Also, Honorable Minister, does department have any strategic plan in place to retain those professionals with the required competencies rather than to lose them to the private sector or to the other countries? Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Honorable Mkhwanazi. Much of the public service has changed quite substantially since 1994, although I don't have numbers at the moment. And the whole orientation is in terms of promoting the values and precepts in the Constitution, but importantly, the development of South Africa for all 62 million people that the census tells us we have right now. Secondly, in terms of previously disadvantaged communities, there's a huge advance in the state sector generally, but particularly within state-owned companies as well. And the numbers indicate that we have professionals who today would be having 20, 25 years of experience and add a tremendous amount of value. But there's also those few who are neither performing or engaging in activities which, for example, assisted state capture. And if they did, then they must pay the price for it and find themselves ideally in orange uniforms at some point or the other. Furthermore, each of the bigger institutions and companies have intensive and extensive training programs. For example, pilots, and this is not the airline pilots, but the tug pilots, who bring in ships into harbors and take out ships from harbors, and other such skills on the railway system, for example, which continues to reproduce younger generations of people who have the right kinds of skills, but also the experience as well. Unfortunately, during the state capture period, honest, good, excellent black and white professionals were kicked out of many of these organizations, went to seek out greener pastures elsewhere, including overseas countries. So you will see here, for example, that power stations, nuclear power stations, for example, in other regions in the world, are actually run by largely South African professionals. We are attracting some of them back, but we need to attract a lot of them back in this case as well. And there's a constant plan within each of the entities to retain professionals, to look after them, but importantly, create an environment where they thrive, feel satisfied, but it's important at the same time to ensure that the business people outside of these SOCs don't attempt to bribe them, don't ask for patronage, handouts so that they can benefit improperly, and we must stop stealing and sabotage and corruption in the SOEs, which still goes on to some extent or the other. And where we find such individuals engaging in that activity, there must be complete intolerance for that. But the flip side is the vast majority want to contribute to the country and to the well-being of the SOC, and they will continue to do so. They look after themselves, they look after the entity, but indeed they have a responsibility to advance the future of this country as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Isaac.
Thank you again, Chairperson. Minister, referring to the 2019 ANC's manifesto and its proven failure to deliver for South Africans, every newspaper has spoken of Transnet's failure. And in view of the number of resignations and firings from Transnet and Eskom's executive and boards, it is clear that you have initially appointed them. And of course, they've been amongst your list of favored people. While as now, you accept no responsibility, Minister. So the question is that, will you agree, Minister, that this is indicative of crippling political meddling, failure of BBEE, and shockingly poor governance under your watch, Minister? Perhaps it's time, Minister, that you need to step down and leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Chairperson, I think what Mr. Honorable Isaac should have said is that he's launching the DA's election campaign now. And we welcome the launch, and we'll take you on in the field as well at the appropriate time. So, and just to remind you, Mr. Isaac, you belong to a 20% party, and you'll never succeed in going above that either. That's why you're looking at moonshots and so on. So, yes, no, I will. Don't get impatient. I will answer the question. And if the question is politically loaded, it will get a politically loaded answer as well. So, you've tried once before to say, you're responsible, go. No, I'm not going anywhere until the end of this term, firstly. Secondly, I accept responsibility. That's why we are changing boards where it's appropriate. Boards are saying to executives, go if you can't perform, because the level of performance that we are seeing is not good for the country, not good for the entity, and not good for the individuals themselves. So we act where it's necessary. Political meddling is this popular noise that's made all over the show. I can guarantee you I don't have the time for meddling. I don't have the spanner or anything else in my office to go around to fix a power station or anything like that. However, we need to understand where the failures are, what the root causes are, and make sure that somebody is giving attention to them. The last point is that you should come for a cup of tea. I'll explain to you the kind of damage that state capture has done to these institutions, and you tell me, if you were in the shoes of a CEO, of a board chair, or a board member, what would you do to fix these institutions? It would take a hell of a long time to fix. And these are broken institutions. But we'll fix them. We've laid the platform. I'm confident that things will improve from this point onwards. And where there are lapses, we will act against the people who are responsible for those lapses.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable E.M. Buthelezi.
Honorable Chairperson, I'll be taking the follow-up on behalf of Inkosi.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, notwithstanding all that you have said, obviously it's common cause that from time to time in the SOS, you do get the allegations of racism rearing.
Honorable Refilwe. Sorry about that.
No, thanks, Chair. So what I'm saying, Minister, that from time to time, the allegations of racism do rear their ugly heads, pitting executive against executive, workers against the executive against workers. It happens all the time. You had the incidents of the former Chief Procurement Officer, Soli Chitangano, at ESCOM, amongst others. But broadly then, Minister, the question is, what interventions are there for the purposes of social cohesion and fostering race relations in the SOE space, given the complexity that's there? It's one thing to complain about it, and it's rightly so to point it out, but there is a need for a concerted effort to bring people closer together. And the diversity in the SOE space requires that such action is taken. So if any, what is it? Or if not, what plans are there to respond to this particular dilemma? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister.
Chairperson, Honorable Slengwa, I think you raised a very important point. Of course, no institution can isolate itself from society more generally. And South Africa has had a history of many centuries of racism, of colonialism, of oppression, and the battles and struggles against those forms of inhuman behavior. Secondly, you're right. In any work situation, whether it's in the state or it's outside of the state, these instances might actually arise. And certainly more active programs need to be introduced so that diversity and cohesion both coexist within these institutions. But also there's a greater level of understanding of different cultures, greater level of acceptance of the kind of changes we need to make within institutions, but also more consciously eliminate race as a factor and racism as a factor. And it's regrettable that some of these things take time, and we've seen manifestations of it not so long ago within this kind of context as well. So I certainly take your proposition in this particular case, and some of the SOEs are aware that as part of the change processes that we are talking about, particularly in the operational area, also require a culture change. Some of the change processes in relation to issues like lack of ethics, integrity, corruption, etc., also require a values change within the workforce and in society more generally as well. So I think in one sense, SOEs must do what they have to do to take up your point. But as a society, we also have to address this question, that greed is a big factor in the way people, certainly the middle classes and above, address themselves in business propositions and so on. And that is why those tendencies tend to weaken the state rather than strengthen the state as well. But this remains our historical mission as a country. And we shall certainly, I'm sure, step by step, overcome some of the legacies of our past. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, in response to the point of order by the Chief Whip of the opposition, may I draw your attention to the following rule. Rule 92 provides that the presiding officer's ruling on a point of order is final and binding and may not be challenged or questioned in the House. A member who is aggrieved by the presiding officer's ruling on a point of order may subsequently, in writing to the Speaker, request that the principle or subject matter of the ruling be referred to the Rules Committee. I therefore urge honorable members not to challenge or question the decision of the House Chair, but to use the relevant structures and remedies provided for the rules. We now move to question number 558, which has been asked by the Honorable Mashele to the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, House Chair, and thanks to Honorable Mashele for his question. Indeed, as the department, we have developed the Small Harbour Development Directorate, recognizing the imperative need of establishing new small harbors within different provinces, but in this specific case, in Eastern Cape. The department is currently in the process of finalizing an in-kind grant to facilitate the undertaking of a detailed feasibility study for prospective small harbors in Port St. John's. The feasibility study will focus on technical, economical, legal, operational, and environmental factors to determine if the project can be successfully implemented. In the context of Port St. John's, which is located in Eastern Cape, the feasibility study might focus on various projects related to small harbors as well as local infrastructure. In relation to Port Alfred, which is in Sarah Batman district, feasibility study could explore projects related to areas such as tourism, accommodation facilities, and others. And in the case of this small harbor in Port Alfred, the department has effectively secured project preparation funding through Infrastructure South Africa. I must say, for all small harbors, the investment on small harbors focus on improving infrastructure, but it unlocks transportation, storage facilities, and specialized equipment. These improvements facilitate the efficient movement of goods and enable business to operate more effectively and promote trade and economic growth. And I must say and affirm, as I said at the beginning, Honorable Mashele, the role of SMMEs will be great and will be supported by the department in these small harbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Mchabiseki, Mashele.
Thank you very much, Minister. Clearly, Minister, small harbors remains an integral part of these coastal communities in relation to economic development. Now, what are your plans in terms of developing other small harbors in provinces like KwaZulu-Natal and the Northern Cape? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thanks, House Chair, and thanks for the supplementary question. The department seeks to address both in this regard, historical neglected areas, but promote economic inclusivity and uplift communities along the coast. The intent is to contribute directly to the achievement of the National Development Plan goals and the reduction of triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. In terms of the development of small harbors, focus is on the 3 coastal provinces, Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. We are in liaison with the Chinese government to assist with feasibility studies in these 3 provinces. Unlike the apartheid regime, which only focused in one province, which is in Western Cape, but we would want to ensure that we explore economic opportunities for all communities in coastal areas. I thank you.
Thank you. Next follow-up question from the Honorable Sitlolo.
Minister, Saldanha Bay Harbour mismanagement is well known to the Portfolio Committee on Public Works as the oversight visit to the area in April 2023 to gain insight into how DPWI and the property management trading entity were managing small harbours along South Africa's coast. This mismanagement by DPWI and PMTE is placing 3,000 jobs and a 450 million economy at risk in Saldanha Bay. Recently cited as one of the best-run municipalities in the country, Saldanha Bay under Mayor Andre Bram-Trute, the municipality has raised issues with the continued deteriorating harbour facilities, but its representation have flatly been ignored by DPWI. The municipality also submitted an intergovernmental request to DPWI requesting that they devolve management of the harbour to the municipality, but this has fallen on deaf ears. Minister, with this mismanagement, will the minister consider the intergovernmental request to devolve management rights of the harbour to the Saldanha Bay municipality? If not, why not?
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you. No, we will not. We will not consider devolving powers, but we will address the real problem. The problem is management in Saldanha Small Harbour, which we are addressing. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock at our office here, the Office of Public Works and Infrastructure, myself as the minister and the directorate responsible will be meeting with communities from Saldanha. We shall never allow people to lose jobs, let alone 3,000 people from such an area. We're not a government that contributes to unemployment, but we address unemployment. And therefore, we're going to improve the management of that facility, protect jobs, and ensure that we create more opportunities. But we are not going to devolve powers. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Suisa.
Honorable Minister, small-scale farmers have been living off the products that they harvested in the sea and could provide their families until the arrival of big corporation companies in South Africa. Job creation does not necessarily mean provision of infrastructure to small-scale fishermen within the mentioned areas, but it simply means that big corporations are provided with the infrastructure by the government under the so-called Triple P to subject small-scale farmers to exploitation. How many small-scale farmers have already been identified as per the response that you just given that SMMEs are going to be looked into? As we are sitting here, how many already have been identified to be assisted by DPWI pertaining to infrastructure?
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Thanks. I will assume that the honorable member was referring to fishermen and all people who are doing fishing, not farmers. With that assumption, I think we must be honest. Both the big business and small businesses have a role to play in ensuring the growth of the economy. And in this regard, we are introducing a policy which is more or less similar to that we are using, which is used under the ministry led by Minister Patel of a special economic zone. Give people support when they start, especially small and emerging fishermen. Ensure that they are supported. You give them the reduced rental price up until they are sustainable, and then you can then increase it. But we are coming together not only as the Department of Public Works, but as a cluster of departments to support these small harbours. These include the Department of Fishery, Forest and Environmental Affairs, but it includes also the Department of Transport, where we are collaborating to support all of those who are operating in these small harbours. We want to offer the support to the big corporates who are there because they create more jobs. But we want to ensure that there is a secured space for those who are emerging so that they benefit and be able to be sustainable going forward. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Zondo.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to Umkhaya Minister. Honorable Kuzeni, I just want to get it clear. I hear you are explaining it very well, and it seems to be good. But maybe you need to give us details on things that has been done by your department and the cluster department that you are talking about in details, because we have seen these things of small harbours. We've seen the devastation from them. We've seen the neglection from fishermen, and we need to be sure of what are the steps from your department to make sure that you sustain and support fishermen. You make sure that you support areas that are living in the area of small harbours. I think you need to give us details on how this department is going to help those in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thanks, House Chair. Details are as follows. About 13 small harbours that were built by the apartheid regime in the 1960s and not maintained. This government has maintained them, improved them by the investment of more than 500 million. That is the first detail. The second detail, the next cluster of small harbours have been identified in Northern Cape, in Eastern Cape, Port St. John's, and in KwaZulu-Natal. In Port St. John's, a pre-feasibility study has been concluded. With regard to the final feasibility study for the three, we are in discussion with the Chinese government for in-kind grant. And these are details, unless maybe details will be something else, Honorable Zondo. In all of these areas, Mkhaya, we are in consultation with communities. We're in consultation with communities from Port St. John's, from Ugu, and from Northern Cape. So, and I must also conclude by saying, we're not only focusing in ensuring that we wait until we build these harbors. Fishermen are being supported, and we've done a lot in all of these areas to provide support to all of those people who are along the coast. Thanks.
Thank you. We proceed, honorable members, to question 559, asked by the Honorable Ramado to the Minister of Transport. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The Road Accident Fund currently administers the fault-based motor vehicle accident compensation system, which it inherited from its predecessors in terms of the Road Accident Fund Act. It was on the basis of the findings and recommendations of the Sexual Commission that Cabinet approved the policy for the Road Accident Benefit Scheme on the 7th of September 2011. This is South Africa's national policy, which requires of us to integrate the social insurance provided by RAF into the country's overall social security system. It is true that Parliament rejected the RAPS bill in 2021, but this does not negate the fact that we have a duty to implement its provisions. The Road Accident Fund 2020-2025 strategy introduces an operating model that places emphasis on the settlement of claims within 120 days and simplifying the claims process, thus removing dependencies on third parties. The Road Accident Fund has made significant progress and has reduced the amount owed to claimants or the requested but not paid amount from 17 billion rand in 2019-2020 to 9.3 billion rand in 2022-2023. The SIU is investigating 102 law firms, including the sheriffs, which received duplicate payments from Road Accident Fund approximately 340 million rand, and Rand has recovered approximately 18 million rand at the end of April 2023. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Ramado.
Ndolibua Mrangadzulo. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for your response. Honorable Minister, what are the plans of RAF, Road Accident Fund, to further reduce its cost against the income and how it is going to decrease its debt liability to enable it to service the victims of road accidents? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you, Honorable Ramado. The department has also published the Road Accident Fund Bill to amend the Road Accident Fund Act to, amongst others, provide efficient services to the claimant, because the relationship that exists between RAF is with the claimants and not the third parties. The public comments to the RAF Amendment Bill closed on the 9th of October 2023, and part of the amendments that would ensure that those eligible for payments indeed receive compensation, including, of course, simplifying the claiming process and ensuring that the compulsory payment of compensation for loss of earning or loss in support in installment happens. Because what is actually happening now, you pay the lump sum, and of course, the rest of it get lost. I have an issue here with me. Somebody was paid through the law firm, 5.619 million rand. The law firm did not pay the claimant, who is black, and the white law firm did not pay their person at least the 619,000 rand. Instead, they paid the claimant 53,000 rand and stole 5.6 million rand. This is the case. And this story that I'm relating to happens every day. And that is why when there are new developments that are introduced, it's not the claimants that jump. It's the people who have never been involved in accidents. It's law firms that pretend to be claiming these things for their people. This is the looting that is happening. So the question is structured correctly. How do we ensure that we reduce? The issue about this is that there will be an agreement between the claimant and the representative that you cannot then say to the claimant, don't. We encourage them to come direct and claim to RAF, but when they decide to do it through the lawyers, then of course that's the agreement that they have. But the looting happens every day. All that we do when they report these matters to us is to assist, if they go to court, to say, indeed, we paid 5.6 million rand. And how much went to the claimant? It's 53,000 rand. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mapena.
Context is important. While the road accident benefit scheme failed because of obvious design flaws and misaligned thinking in relation to practical solutions, the latest published proposal to change the current act proposes exclusion of pedestrians to be compensated by government. Wanted to ask Minister to say, when the any lessons learned in the previous public hearings in 9 provinces where 76% of attendees among the 981 did not support RAP's bill. Why did you then, in the current proposed scheme, decide to exclude pedestrians in the future dispensation of claims for road victims' accidents? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I couldn't get the question as such because I think I was missing on some other words. However,
I can repeat, Chair.
Chula, Budum.
Okay.
Uteuza ukuzwile kancane, yeah.
Okay.
Qhubeka
But
ma-
if you just listen to what he says, he confirms exactly what I'm saying. It's attorneys, he says, not the claimants, not the people who have had people being involved in accidents, not those who have lost support because somebody has died, not the people who probably have lost income because they were badly injured. It's attorneys, he says. It's not, the road accident fund is not for attorneys.
On a
It's
point
for
of order,
claimants.
Chair, I never said
But they-
attorneys.
Honorable
On a point of
Mapena.
order,
Honorable
yeah, I didn't say.
Honorable Mapena.
Hence,
Honorable
yes, Chair, hence I
Mapena.
was.
Awungizwa na?
Yeah.
Lalela.
Oh, okay, no, singabuza, Chair. Okay.
Lalela ke. Honorable Minister, let's give him the benefit of doubt.
Yes, please.
Please come in. Honorable Mapena.
Ngiyathokoza Sihlalo. Yes. The question was, while the road accident benefit scheme has failed because of obvious design flaws and misaligned thinking in relation to practical solutions, the latest published proposal to change the current act proposes exclusion of pedestrians to be compensated by this ANC government. The question is, why, Minister, did you decide to exclude pedestrians in the future dispensation of claims for road accident victims? Thank you.
Clear.
No, thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Mapena. I have heard you now. First, this is still a bill. We're conducting hearing about it. If there is enough reason to include pedestrians, that can be done. But let me say, even today, with the road accident fund as it is, if you are in a tractor, you don't claim from the road accident fund. And I just want to believe even the pedestrians, I think they are claiming today, if it is a motor vehicle. Now, I think if indeed that is an omission, it's something that can still be considered because this is a bill, it is not an act. So if that is raised, definitely we'll take into account. Thank you.
Thank you. Mam Nolchungu? Oh,
Thank you, I'll take it.
Thank you. Proceed.
The RAPS bill was rejected by all members of the Transport Portfolio Committee. The main problem is not the bill, but the corruption within the institution. Amending the bill will not get rid of the inefficiencies and the corruption within the institution. What is the department doing, or what plans do they have in place to clean the administration and the corruption at Road Accident Fund?
Okay. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. The bill was rejected indeed by Parliament. The RAPS bill was rejected by Parliament, and therefore it's no longer on the table. It is because it was a no-fault bill. It was actually saying anyone who is in an accident can claim from Road Accident Fund, with the aim of excluding lawyers, because the Road Accident Fund today, it forces a person to go and look for a legal representation, because that's what it asks. But what we are experiencing with that is what I was referring to, that when then they have the legal representations, then what sometimes you'd have the number of the claimant, but the lawyer will then advise the claimant to change the set number so that you are no longer able to communicate with the claimant. So these things happen. So we're of the view that like any other security, in fact, security, what is this, insurance, then of course you're going to have anyone qualifying to claim from the Road Accident Fund, but that was rejected. Now we are talking about the new bill, which will still be fault-based, but at least make it easy for the claimant to claim without seeking a legal representation, because that is where the problem is. So that the claimant are able to go direct to Road Accident Fund, which of course, even today, they do have a right to do, but otherwise somewhere they get forced to look for a legal person to represent them. We are trying to make it easy for the claimants to claim direct with the Road Accident Fund without seeking a legal representation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mhlonishwa Sithole.
Angibonge sihlalo, ngibonge kuMinister. Minister, inkinga ithi laba bantu abalimalayo banenkinga ukuthi abameli bahlala ezibhedlela. Uma nje selimele ngaleso sikhathi angakazi lutho uvese ummeli angene kuye athathe yonke information yakhe emva kwalapho ahamba ayoclaim. Manje ngizama ukuthola ukuthi ikhona indlela yokufundisa abantu isimo sokuthi umuntu uyakwazi ukuzenzela ama-claims ngaphandle kokuxoxelwa abameli, ngoba abameli egcineni badla imali yabantu abalimeleyo. Ngiyathokoza.
Sithokoze Mhlonishwa, Ngqongqoshe.
Indeed, ngiyavuma, honorable member. Sike saba ne flagship project here, Road Accident Fund, basically taking rough on the road. Yes, rough on the road. Besiya kubantu siyobafundisa namanje futhi kusenzeka kakhulu ukuthi kiwe bantu bayofundiswa. Kodwa njengoba usho, uma nje eMpumalanga kwakuna le yangozi yale yesitimela netruck, even before sifike neRAF, base bekhona baphuma bengena emakhaya benza door to door, literally bebhalisa abantu, but labo bantu leyo mali bagcina bengayitholanga. That is why sidinga isolution kwiRAF, because iRAF ekhona today iyasho ukuthi iyadraftwa kahle hle abameli, beyidraftela bona ukuthi basize, not ama-claimants. So i-claimant iqhamuka kamuva, and kusekunzima nokuthi uyazi ukuthi uthola u-53,000 rand ku-5.6 million rand, but ukuthi uhamba uyongena lapho bekuyisivumelwane sabo phela sibobabili. Uma kufanele ungene wena, kufanele ungene mhlawumbe uyoreporta kwi-Law Society, naye engayazi kahle ukuthi sisiza kanjani. So inkinga ekhona, kodwa siyabafundisa abantu ukuthi nanamuhla ungenza uzokwenza i-direct claim, noma ungeza at some stage uzothi sengicela ukuyiqhubekela mina noma yayiqalwe ummeli, sengicela ukuyiqhubekela mina, noma kuthi-ke uma ngabe ubona ukuthi anivumelani uma kade uyiqalele wena usungamfaka ummeli phakathi nendawo. Siyabachazela abantu lokho, kodwa isikhathi esiningi njengoba usho bafika kuqala baye khona bayothi ngena sizokuthathela bese bedla konke nje bahambe. Kuthi nobe qualifya ukuthi athole umuntu ongamsiza ekhaya akhokhe lo road accident fund, uthole ukuthi akasamtholi loyo muntu paraplegic or quadriplegic, kodwa akamtholi umuntu ozomsiza ngoba ummeli uyanqena ukuyomtshela ukuthi ungahamba uyokhokhela umuntu ngoba umemtshela lokho kufanele amtshele ukuthi sengikhokhelwe phela u5.6 million rand bese hlala umuntu angabenefit from road accident fund. Inkinga yona le eyiyona engicabanga ukuthi neParliament must assist us uma siletha le bill. Ngiyabonga.
Okay, thank you very much. We proceed, honorable members, to question 560, asked by the Honorable Lubengo, to the Minister of Small Business Development. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you so much, House Chairperson, and good afternoon to all the honorable members. Let me first thank Honorable Bengo for this important question, and just to outline what are the interventions in relation to the question that he has asked. Honorable members, as you are all aware, that townships and rural areas were developed under apartheid as dormitory labor-sending economies. Today, these areas have the highest unemployment and poverty levels in the country. The development of SMMEs and cooperatives remain a core strategy to create livelihoods, opportunities, and jobs in these respective areas. To this end, as the department were to craft up some interventions that must therefore assist the businesses in the townships and rural areas. We have a scheme that we launched that is called TRAP, the Township and Rural Enterprise Program, which aims to assist informal, micro, and small enterprises to grow their businesses. The financial package that we offer here is looking at offering a maximum of 1 million rands per small enterprise, which goes towards working capital, the cost of equipment, or any other capex. The financial package is currently structured in the form of a blended finance package, which means it's a grant and a loan at the same time. And it goes to 100%, which is the grant with the maximum cap, and 1 million rands, as I indicated, in the entire loan. Given the need and feedback from stakeholders, we have reviewed this instrument and have agreed on a non-financial support of up to 300,000 rands for equipment and stock when necessary for spaza shops and general dealers. We are currently awaiting the National Treasury and Parliament to approve this request that we have submitted. Nevertheless, honorable members, we're not waiting, we're not sitting and waiting. In the current format, CIFA continues to implement the TRAP. It provides blended financing, as I have said, and during this financial year, we did come to this House and announce that we are going to disburse 909 million rands, 422,000 to enterprises that operate in townships and the villages. For the financial year that recently ended, which talks to your 2022-2023, we had disbursed 1.5 billion rands to enterprises operating in township and rural areas. The key instrument for providing financial support to township and rural enterprises is the Informal and Micro Enterprise Development Program, which is allocated 23 million rands as we announced during the budget vote speech. We also have developed the Shared Economic Infrastructure Facility, which is allocated 77 million rand. The IMDP is a finance support instrument, while SAFE is geared to financially invest in the provision of business infrastructure support for SMMEs and cooperatives. We also have the Cooperatives Development and Support Program, which was transferred from CIFA to CEDA, and it gives 100% grant to the cooperatives. Those that are in the secondary phase, they get up to 5 million rands. Those that are in the primary phase looking at growing their business, 2.5 million. And those that are starting up, they go up to 1.5 million rands. In looking into the funding that is provided by the DFIs to the township and rural businesses, we've recently developed the Small Businesses and Cooperatives Funding Policy, wherein we're trying to ensure that the state does pay for the developmental dividend by ensuring that there's provision of access towards finance, easy access towards finance by small businesses in the different stages of business development. Again, we're trying to ascertain authority in terms of saying, as the coordinating department, there should be a framework that assists everybody who's involved in the financing and funding of small businesses. And therefore, we look at the different segments and provide a direction to the entire country both government and private sector. The policy has been approved already by Cabinet, where it called for public comments, and we'll be going back to incorporate those. Amongst the things that the policy proposes is the establishment of the fund of funds that will tap into the private sector funds and of course bring on board also the public sector funds in order to bridge the gap that people complain about in terms of the credit gap amongst the SMMEs, which is estimated to be at 350 billion rands. It also looks at the collateral by providing for a movable collateral registry. Most financiers, when they want to fund the small businesses, they raise lots of things because they are scared of risk. And this is why we are saying we should be able to look at certain things that an entrepreneur would have that would enable one to have access to financing. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, and let's remind one another, you have 4 minutes to the initial question. I gave more. So let's stick to that. I use my discretion, Galuk. Honorable Piri, take charge as you are allowed by Rule 13710.
Ke a leboga modulasetulo. Be ke o tla gopela motlhomphegi a no beya dietsebeng gobane ke tlo bolela ka segagešo.
Akakuzwanga from now.
That's why ke gopela gore a die bjalo. Ke a tseba gore o bolela leleme le le sa tshwaneng le la ka.
Yeah, unawe. Are you okay, Minister? Thank you
Are
for
you fine?
warning her.
Ke a leboga modulasetulo bjalo ka morumiwa empa le bjalo ka leloko la palamente. Ke botšiša motlhomphegi gore ka baka la go hloka tlhako ya melawana yeo e le gona mo nakong ye ya bo dikgwebopotlana tša magareng le dikgwebopotlana tše nyane. Motlhomphegi, na o ka kgona gore molaokakanywa yo mofsa yo o leng gona goba yo o šišinywang go tla go kaonafatša phitlhelelo ya ditšhelete go dikhamphani tše nyane tše di thomago o ka kgona go ba fa kanofalo ye kaone ya maemo a kaone a bego gore le gona le gore ba kgone go abelwa tše di kaone ya tshedimošo ka gore yalo wa tseba gore motlhomphegi go na le mabakana a e leng gore a ba thibela gore ba khumane thušo yeo e leng gore ka sejatlhapi re di bitša di-red tape rena ka Sepedi re re ke thepe ye kgwebetšo. Motlhomphegi le ka go tlhalošetša badudi ba Afrika Borwa gore o ka ba thuša bjang gore yeo e thepe ye kgwebetšo e ntšhiwe. Ke a leboga.
Are you okay, ma'am?
I'm good, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Let me first start here that we had introduced to Parliament the Small Enterprise Amendment Bill, which looks at addressing what the Honorable Member is talking about, to say we create a legislative environment that takes into consideration the challenges that are faced by the small and medium enterprises in our country. Amongst the things that we've proposed in the bill is the incorporation of CIFA, which is the financing agency under the department, the CBDA, which as things stand is under National Treasury, into CEDA, which is the one that provides business development support to SMMEs. By doing this, honorable members, we're trying to make sure that we create a one-stop shop for all the entrepreneurs that want to access services. Indeed, it becomes a red tape that every entrepreneur has to go to this place, must go to labor, must go to this area, go to CIFA, go to CEDA. That is time-consuming and costly to entrepreneurs. That's why we are not only proposing the establishment of that agency, we are saying it has to operate in a manner that provides a coordinated intervention to the constituency that we serve. We're talking about digitizing some of the services and the products that will be offered through the agency that looks at ensuring that at the tick of your phone or at the tip of your finger on your phone, you're able to access SARS, which you must apply for a tax clearance certificate from UIF and any other body, but more so the municipality that must be able to provide you with a permit or the license for you to operate. All of this we are doing because we're trying to really deal with the red tapes that we're talking about. Of course, there's lots of red tape interventions that we are proposing, which is why we are working with the presidency in dealing with those. We have identified more than 169 pieces of legislations, which are excluding small businesses. This is why amongst the amendments that we are making, we are saying there's a need to repeal certain legislations, but also give the regulatory powers to the department to be able to enforce some of the things that we're talking about.
Thank
we are
you.
focusing on pre-investment
Thank
and
you.
post-investment support.
We proceed. Mr. De Villiers.
Minister, I think we can agree that access to finance is super important for SMMEs and for any business. But even more important is access to electricity. Now, I understand that Minister Patel has launched an energy resilience fund through the DTI, but I will assume that that's targeted at normal businesses, businesses that are a little bit more formal. And 8 months ago, you announced an energy relief plan for the small business department, which will target micro enterprises, like all our hairdressers. We've not heard anything since about this energy relief plan. Would you please clarify, is it still happening, and what is the plan for micro and small businesses to get energy or electricity relief? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you so much, Hlonipeki. Just to clarify, when we announced the Energy Relief Fund, we didn't say it's targeting only informal businesses. We have a broader constituency that cuts across small and medium enterprises, which are struggling to pay us back on the finances that we've given to them. Indeed, we announced it, which is why you saw NEF and IEDC coming on board. We worked together as the DFIs. But from our side, because we were tapping into funds that are under TRAP, the program that I spoke about earlier, because we were targeting the most vulnerable groups. We therefore had to seek permission from National Treasury, which unfortunately was declined. National Treasury is coming back to Parliament as things stand. When the minister comes, they are considering to say how best can they go about ensuring that they can move certain funds and be able to provide those funds to us. For the micro businesses though, we are not sitting and waiting. We have the program that I spoke about earlier, the IMEDP. We've been going around, people have requested for generators themselves, and we've bought those for a number of informal enterprises that we have. The continued support that CIFA provides, people are still able to apply for funding without specifying for solar, but if there's a need for that, all the alternative energy solutions that are provided, they're able to apply from CIFA and get that without specializing on energy. So there is support that is continuing through the existing products. It's just that we wanted to create a specific fund for the energy relief. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Machulelwa, Mamsuwisi, proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, it is not correct that the Department of Small Businesses and its entities is expanding. Majority of its officers are only functional in the cities. The ones in the rural areas are dysfunctional. It is an expansion without quality and it is meaningless. Go to Escort, Mpangeni, Vryheid, Jozini, KwaZulu-Natal, some of the areas where I do political work. There are no functional officers. Minister, is it possible that there are lease agreements and budgets for your department and its entity that are diverted to do election campaigns and is not expanding the services for the SMMEs?
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much. The problem of being in a competitive space is that you can't tell a difference when government is doing its responsibility and towards the citizens, and everything tends to be interpreted as a campaign. We owe it to the people of South Africa, whether we are ANC or they are not. That is why we're not looking for any party affiliation when we provide the service that we are providing. Now, the honorable member raises an important thing that she claims that in the areas that she has highlighted, the offices are dysfunctional. If it is so, honorable members, because the reports that we get, those areas, there's a request every time, there's disbursements that are made towards the enterprises, and therefore we'll monitor that because we can't dispute or dismiss anything. But reports we do get through the provincial managers and the branch managers. We thank you for providing your oversight. Let's just hope that it is effective and true to the sense. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much. There has been no request for the fourth supplementary question, and as such, we move to next question, which is question 590, asked by the Honorable Kachalia to the Minister of Public Enterprises. The Honorable, the Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me firstly issue an invitation to Honorable Isaac or Honorable Kachalia or any other honorable member to come and learn about some of these businesses that SOCs are involved in, rather than pontificate about them or politicize them. And if you have a better solution on one or other aspect, we're quite willing to listen and implement those in the national interest. And I await their responses to the invitation. In response to Honorable Kachalia's question, the facts are as follows, Chairperson. Transnet, one board member resigned for personal reasons. 2 executives resigned, as we know, related to the state of affairs within the company and performance. And 1 executive moved to another major company, which is a pure job change. In Eskom, the CEO resigned for his own non-performance and attitude to serving in the institution. The COO stayed on for a while and then resigned to take up another position in the industry. The new CEO of Eskom will be appointed before the end of the year, as I've said before, and the Transnet board has initiated the process of recruitment of a CEO and other senior managers. So with great respect to Honorable Kachalia, this does not constitute a flurry of resignations. We need to urgently drive change, and as I've said repeatedly this afternoon, a focus on operational effectiveness. And in the case of Transnet and Eskom, the boards are attending to this by developing the recovery plans. Whilst these processes are underway, as I've said before, there are interim executives in place to ensure business continuity. In summary, our experience is that there is, in fact, a positive response from staff to some of these changes who are eager to take up the operational performance to new levels. This will have a very positive impact in due course on the institution, on the economy, and on the fiscus, which have all been negatively impacted. We will be increasingly critical of declining operational effectiveness and negative external impact of these sorts of declines. And where necessary, we will take the appropriate actions. Of course, finally, Chairperson, we recognize that we live in a post-truth world where you can manufacture all sorts of narratives and irrelevant explanations. For example, we are trying to privatize everything to mislead the public rather than focus on what we are doing, which is repairing these highly damaged institutions, returning them to operational performance that is acceptable to all of us, and serving the country and the economy better. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Isaac. Come in charge. You are allowed.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Minister, with due respect to you now, let's cut out the diplomacy here. You talk about these dying institutions. Who has been the cause of all this failure? I mean, let's just cut the chase and let's get down to the root cause of the issues. Because honestly, Minister, you have played with the lives of South Africans, and I say this to you with due respect. You and the ANC, and honestly, plainly stupid policies, and I'll tell you why. Now that most of these entities are dying, there is an opportunity for private and public participation. Honorable Patel, thanks for paying attention. The shareholder structure is wrong. Political interference abounds, and corporates within these monopolies are incorrectly integrated. The problem is not one of capability, Minister. It is one of governance, and that's not rocket science. Surely it is true that if one were to offer Elon Musk, the Google boys, Apple's Tim Cook, or Amazon's Jeff Bezos the opportunity to run these companies under these conditions, surely they would laugh at you and wish you good luck. So, Minister, the question is, should these entities not be split up like the long-awaited unbundling of Eskom into 3 units, generation, transmission, and of course distribution, and then sold or concessioned off to private operators, with the state, of course, securing the operating rail environment from daily rampant theft, which you alluded to earlier. So, finally, would you not agree with experts in the country that this constitutes stupid red tape and your meddling with personnel that is constituted to the demise of these entities, which you admit to, Minister? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Proceed, Honorable Minister.
Indeed, Chairperson, Honorable Isaac, let's cut to the chase. You live in a delusional world. You want to deny state capture. You are an advocate for anything that the private sector can do, it will always do better. But if you watch some of the daily papers and the turnovers of CEOs within the private sector, you never ask the question, why is company X removing a CEO and in one instance bringing back a CEO who was there 15 years ago? Why? Why did a major corporation, which is a dominant player on our stock exchange, ask the CEO to leave? No explanation. So there must have been something wrong with performance there, which required the rotation of CEOs to actually take place. So move away from the delusional world. I reissued the invitation to you. Come and learn about our business. Don't assume what is wrong. And I want to challenge you in that regard. Now forget about the invitation. That you lack knowledge, you lack an understanding of the root causes of the problem, and you need to be educated, inverted commas, about what the issues are. And I'm sure you have somewhat of a creative mind that can contribute some solutions if there is a constructive spirit. But your answer can't be give it to the private sector. But I understand that you belong to a party that constrains you in terms of what you can think and what you can say. You are only allowed to say private sector, because if you say anything else, you'll be fired from your party, you see? And that's a challenge that you face. Admit it as well to the South African public, that the state has no role. But then you're living in an imaginary world. Without the state, the financial disaster of 2008 and 9 and 10 would have killed the economy across the world. The state intervened to save it. Without the state, COVID would have been a much bigger disaster for humanity than we had until now.
Thank you.
Think again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhlomphehi Siweya.
Thank you, House Chair, and good afternoon to the Minister. Minister, noting that the turnaround and restructuring of the SOEs is embedded around competence, merit-based public sector systems, and a non-narrow political agenda, I'm more interested in understanding when will South Africans see the envisaged changes in these SOEs timeframes. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Minister.
Well, if you look at what this administration inherited in 2018, where there were boards that were collaborating in virtually the complete extraction of any money in these institutions, for the redirection of the money to areas where it can actually be, let's put it politely, repurposed, where managers were appointed because they could enable theft and corruption to actually take place. Compare it to where we are today, there's a huge difference already. Load shedding, for example, is not a problem that arose in 2018, has its origins in 1998 and the period soon after that, and the inability to realize that we needed to build power stations at the right time. We've admitted that. So the changes are visible, the changes are there, but those changes are not enough. We need to do more in each of these SOEs to move up a gear in more ways than one, to improve performance, to improve revenue, and each of these SOEs must pay dividends to the state, not look for bailouts from the state. And that's the condition that we need to get to. It will take time to get there, because as I said earlier on, Mr. Honorable Isaac, come and sit with us and understand the business, walk the floor. Then you'll understand the repair work that actually needs to be done. It's like that broken car you might have bought when you were young, and fixing it is not going to happen overnight. But the improvements are there. We can say to South Africans, where we have shortcomings as far as the improvements are concerned, we have recovery plans that are being put in place, changes in executives where that is necessary in order to make sure that the economy is served well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Isaac, portfolio committee is there for these arguments when somebody responds. Can we proceed to Honorable Mautwe, who's coming up? Honorable Kaiser.
Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, as the economic freedom fighters, we maintain that the problem is not a flurry of resignation. It is the employer. We are told that the employer interferes with everything that is happening in these entities. And the employer wants to micromanage seasoned executives to achieve what we don't know. We're in complete agreement with the national chairperson of the ANC, Mr. Gwede Mantashe, when he says, the flurry of resignations are happening under your watch. The problem must be you, if they are happening under your watch. The question is, why are you not doing the dignified thing and resign? Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm sure Honorable Geza would like to see some of us disappearing, because we stand in the way of theft, we stand in the way of corruption, we stand in the way of patronage, so that each of the doors can be widely opened, and people who are used to doing the kinds of things that we are talking about carry on doing them. I'm sorry, that's not what we struggled for. That's not what I was an activist for 50 years and others similarly as well. So you'll have to tolerate us for a while. You say you are told about employer interference. I'm not the employer. The employer is the board. So get at least the facts right. Yes, but that shareholder is not the employer. Honorable Isaac, you had your turn. As I said, if you feel like visiting my office, you're welcome. Don't shout across the floor. So what you are told is incorrect. You should get your facts right as to who is the employer. Educate yourself, just like Honorable Isaac, about how these things operate within a state-owned company, and that will enable you to be more dignified about the questions you ask. Thank you.
Thank you. We proceed to Honorable Buthelezi. And there is it. Okay.
Chair, if I may take the question on behalf of Ingos. Thank you very
Proceed.
much, Chair. Minister, shortly after the resignation of the board chairperson of ESCOM recently, and of course this comes on the back of the resignation of the CEO in February, well, not resignation, sort of that termination of his contract. The allegation is that, amongst others, the chairperson of the board resigned because of the interference of the shareholder and not the interface on a key critical issue of the appointment of the CEO. So the question becomes, Minister, do you have a preferred candidate for CEO, which has led to the extent that you are not in agreement with the outcomes of the interview process? And for how long will the situation continue without a CEO at ESCOM? So the really issue is that, did you have a hand in the, yeah, and I'm asking to clear it, that's the whole point of the question. Calm down. So, so the whole point, Minister, is to then say, what has been your role in the
Your
process
time is
of
up.
the appointment of the CEO? Being it in discretion is sad.
Angiphile, babuzo ukuthi ngiphe
Thank you,
how
Chair,
long?
thank you.
Honorable Minister, before you respond, you must also realize that the rules of this House, and such as Rule 1427, allows you to respond to only one supplementary question. He asked 3 or 4. Proceed.
It's all right. I'm in a generous mood, Chairperson. And he's recently become my friend again, so we'll have to respond to him, unless he changes his mind tomorrow as well. So, Honorable Schlengwa stroke Buthelezi, the facts, there are rules set out in guidelines which apply across government and therefore apply to ESCOM, Transnet, and to anybody else. That the board starts a recruitment process either through a search company or through adverts or through both. The board will look at all of the candidates, narrow them down to their long list, narrow it down to a short list, interview the candidates, send them for various types of tests, and they will then choose 3 names, which they will submit. Cabinet then has the option through myself, but usually with colleagues as well from Cabinet, which was the case with the previous CEO, where there were 4 ministers that conducted the interviews, and we'll choose our preferred candidate, but take cognizance of the board's view in this particular account. On this occasion, in the case of ESCOM, 1 name was submitted, so all we did was to say, follow the guidelines. The guidelines have now been followed. 3 names will be coming in shortly, and as I've said before, including this afternoon, ESCOM will have a CEO before the end of the year. Interference, preferred candidate, that's all nonsense as far as I'm concerned, and is part of this post-truth world that I'm talking about. These are the rules. I'm there to apply the rules, and when the rules are complied with, we move to the next step. Thank you.
Thank you. As we proceed to question 600, also asked to the Minister of Public Enterprises by the Honorable Mautwe, the Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson, and in her absence, thanks to Honorable Mautwe for the question. As I've indicated to a previous question, we've had a number of instances of operational failures and shortcomings in the case of Transnet. So yes, we've looked into the matter, particularly through the board. Secondly, as I've indicated earlier on, the freight rail division has seen a 6.7% decline in overall volumes from 226 million in 17-18 to 149 million in 22-23. And there are any number of instances like that. On the 1st of September, I directed the board through a statement and a letter that they must give attention, as I said earlier on, to an operational transformation within the various divisions of Transnet, identify the root causes of the problem and attend to them, ensure that there's proper accountability and oversight, undertake a review of the management to see if the right people are in the right place, ensure that there's transparency about data and the digitization of systems, and various other factors that the board has taken into account. They have got to a point where they have crafted a draft recovery plan, as I indicated earlier as well, and that recovery plan will go through various processes of refinement in the coming days and weeks, and will be implemented to achieve quick wins, which show immediate improvements in the performance of Transnet, and would also set out short, medium, and long-term goals that the Transnet executive, both the current and the incoming, will have to comply with. So yes, we've moved quite far in this particular regard, and I want to extend my thanks to the hard work that the board has put in, and the interim management is very committed to executing this recovery plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable, who's representing the Honorable Maudul? Oh, proceed to
Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, the appointment of the former CEO of Transnet was misguided. The former CEO did not possess the requisite skills and track record to manage complex systems. There is evidence of destruction of value in their previous employment, yet you employed people who pushed for privatization of strategic public assets. The exodus of resignations in your department destabilizes the department. You are the minister responsible. Now that you already mentioned that you won't resign to save what is left of Transnet, who stands to benefit in the private sector and what is your interest? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
The CEO is not a former CEO yet, honorable members, so you might want to take account of that. That happens at the end of this month. Secondly, as I've said repeatedly to those who want to hear, that there is no attempt at privatization, nor do we have destabilization. What we have is a lack of performance, and by all accounts, particularly with experts who have 20, 30, and 40 years experience in the rail sector in South Africa, there is every possibility available to improve the performance of rail, and that is what the board is undertaking to do through the recovery plan. So as far as we are concerned, we will see improvements as we go on, as I've repeatedly said this afternoon. And as we also said, some people in life show some potential at some point, but they might reach a point, like all of us, because we are human, of shortcomings when particular challenges emerge. And if we have the humility, we'll admit to our shortcomings and then do what is necessary. If we are lacking in emotional intelligence and the ability to take feedback, which is constructive, then whether you're in the private sector or public sector, you have to bear the consequences. But let me repeat, nothing is being privatized. Thank you.
Thank you. Ilunga elihloniphekileko lendlu Baba uDlamini. Xesha ngelakho.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Minister. In terms of operational inefficiencies, more especially at TNPA and TPT, is there a plan, perhaps, to try and reinstate what was known as C-Talk to the workers? Because after the announcement that C-Talk is no longer going to be available, there were operational challenges in terms of efficiency, more especially in container handling. Thanks, Chair.
The Honorable the Minister.
As we said earlier on, Chairperson, and thanks to the Honorable Dlamini for your question, when the board is looking into developing and continues to do so, the recovery plan, they look at all aspects of performance, whether it's TNPA, which is the Ports Authority for those who are not familiar, or the Ports Terminals, which is what TPT stands for, or TFR, which is the rail area, or TPL, which is the pipeline area. Across the board, they will and have been looking at performance. The board currently, for example, is in Quebec and meeting the TNPA executives at the head office there to understand what they do, what their challenges are, and how they can assist this team to overcome some of those challenges. I think what Honorable Dlamini is referring to is a kind of incentive scheme that used to operate at the TPT level, and there's a review of some of those. So we are interacting with the union, even at my level as well, so that we get an understanding of what is required. But as soon as we are ready and our explorations in this regard and consultations are complete, we will certainly find that we will announce the new direction as far as this is concerned. And finally, we also want to start looking at how within the state sector, workers actually have, if you like, skin in the game, meaning they are also beneficiaries of the improvements in revenue in particular that these entities might be experiencing in due course. And we are undertaking a study in this regard as to what our options are, so that the beneficiaries are not just the top management or a few business people, it's also workers themselves who are not just empowered in the sense of skills, but are also beneficiaries in other senses as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Akhbara lead Esok.
Thank you again, Chairperson. Minister, with due respect, as much as you allude to the fact that I need to be educated, but you would respect the fact that under your custodianship, every one of these entities has all but collapsed. Dividends, we come to speak about dividends. None of these entities pay dividends, except SAFCOL in the last 5 years, which has paid some 900 and some odd thousand. You remember my written question. You speak of broken cars. South Africans speak of a broken government, Minister. I mean, let's smell the coffee. So I say to you again, you have cost the country untold losses in failed export opportunities. Now digest this for immediate reference. You have cost this country untold losses. Why I say that to you? Because agriculture and mining sectors have lost out on billions of exports. Again, because of yours and Transnet's failure. Our rail network and pipelines are being vandalized every day. We pointed that out earlier. This is reflective
Honorable
of an
Isaac,
inability.
your
Yes, ma'am.
time is up.
Why? Don't you want me to put him on the spot?
Honorable
Minister,
member, your time is up.
But you know, ma'am,
I gave
National
you more.
Treasury is being hemorrhaged, Minister. So
Okay.
will you please consider the last 6 months stepping down, taking a chill
Honorable
pill,
Isaac.
riding off into the weekend?
Honorable Isaac.
Okay,
Please.
ma'am.
Please, don't do that. Don't
But
do
you
that.
also, Chairperson, you don't.
I gave you extra minutes.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
I accept that. Thank you.
Please take your seat, and there was no question, but the rules allow for a person to make a statement. And that's what you just did. But it's up to you, Honorable Minister, if you want to respond.
Chair, before you took that seat, I did say to Honorable Isaac that elections are still some time away and that he should be patient with what line his political party is developing to attack the ANC and so on. I also reminded him that there will never be more than a 20% party. But that truth is hard to bear, it would appear. The third thing, he's been given a line, which I understand. You know, you've got to attack this chap, get him to resign. He's been saying that all the time when I interact with him, whether it's in a committee or in the assembly. One would expect that Honorable Isaac is a lot more creative than that he won't just pontificate on these issues, that he hasn't responded to one point I've made repeatedly. Are you going to come and have tea to learn the business so that you can be asking the right type of questions? Right now, you're making a joke out of your questions, and that's your fault, not mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Akhbar lid predikant Swart. Dis is 'n geleentheid nou.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair and Minister, the ACDP is in agreement with you about the damage done to Transnet by state capture and corruption. And Minister, you referred to interventions and a draft recovery plan for Transnet, which we really trust will succeed, as it is in the national interest, and we need to look beyond party political interests when it comes to...
Askis, did you get it? Because there was this sound. You are okay. Thank you. I'm sorry for that, Honorable Swart.
Part of Transnet's draft plan, we understand, is for government to take over 61 billion rand of its 130 billion rand debt, as well as to service its debt obligations. And whilst we accept, Minister, it might be premature to ask this, given that it is still a draft recovery plan, which you indicated needs to go through a process, would such a financial intervention be affordable given the financial constraints facing government, and would this not be a moral hazard where SOEs know they can obtain finances whenever in need? Thank you, Honourable Minister. By the way, I might need to come and have some tea with you to understand this process better.
Okay. I think the other problem is that you had two mics on there. Yeah. It was on. Okay, it's fine. Honorable Minister.
Thanks, Honorable Swart, and thank you, Chair. And thank you, at last somebody is taking up a cup of tea with me. But Honorable Swart and I were in the Public Enterprises Portfolio Committee in 2017 and early 2018 when we interrogated Eskom on the issue of state capture. So he understands it well. You might also want to invite Honorable Isaac. He might just join you in this particular regard. So the second point around moral hazard is a correct one, and I don't think we want to fall into that trap. The reality is Eskom does have a debt book of about 130-odd billion rands, and something needs to give. In the first instance, performance needs to give. In other words, earn more revenue by performing better and bring in more revenue into the fiscus, but into your books as well. Secondly, look for creative financial solutions, which might or might not involve partnerships with the private sector, but certainly not privatization, so let me repeat that. And there are many forms that are across government. So if you speak to my colleague, Minister Chikunga, she'll tell you about SANRAL and the concessioning of various highways and the 20 years of concessioning and the benefits that it has brought to South Africa. There are similar options and many others that are available to us as well. All of those options are being examined so that we come up with a creative set of answers that solves the financial bind, if you like. And let's be frank, there's a payment coming up shortly of about 6 billion rands, and we've got to find the 6 billion rands in some way. So there's hard work going on by technical people to say, how do we address this particular question? Between, I think, December this year and March next year, there's another 6 billion rands of debt that needs to be paid. We need to find an answer to that as well. And some of the answers, as I said, and I repeat, needs to come from operational improvements. And there's a huge opportunity for Transnet to earn a lot more than they are bringing into the books at this point in time. But that needs to be combined with other creative financial means as well, as in particular, how do we bring new infrastructure on board, new machinery on board? And this is where other arms of the state could be of assistance to Transnet as well. So those are also options that the board and ourselves are looking into. And we will come up with solutions on some of these. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, the 3 hours for questions is over, but we will now take the questions that stood over from Wednesday, the 7th of June, in terms of Rule 144.1 and supplementary questions. That is the other 30 minutes that the Honorable House Chair talked to. Now, the question is asked to the Minister of Small Business Development by the Honorable Jacobs. It is question 253. You are allowed, ma'am.
Thank you so much, House Chair. As Minister Patel indicated earlier in relation to the role that has been played by IDC and NEF in relation to ensuring that we minimize the impact of load shedding around small businesses, we have joined hands, and of course, at the stand of it was ensuring that we also look at the environment wherein SMM is operating in. During the budget vote, we once again announced that we're gonna be establishing product markets that will be green economy buildings so that we can be able to bring all these small businesses in their respective areas to make sure that they can trade where possible under one area, because they also complain about issues of lease fees. They also complain about the issue of load shedding. We're doing all of this, but at the center of it is to say, how do we make sure that the enterprises are able to benefit again in the crisis that we are faced with? Which is why we partnered with the Department of Higher Education and Training and Minister of Electricity, including Labor, to ensure that we can train installers that must therefore work with the respective entities and provide a service to everybody in need. We are working with the Energy SETA. We will soon be sending some of the entrepreneurs and electricians to China in order to make sure that they can be taught how to manufacture some of the solar panels so that the monies that we are using in the crisis can also be left in the country to create jobs. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Jacobs is not here. Okay. Proceed, Honorable Piri.
Ke a leboga gape modulasetulo. O mo lekgotla phetiši ke a botšiša gape na kgoro ya gago ya tlhabollo ya dikgwebopotlana e tla šoma le DTIC go phethagatša maano a mmušo a go a thušang dikgwebopotlana ka go fokotša ditlamorago tša go tšhollwa ye e leng gore re bolela ka load shedding go dikgwebopotlana, gore mmušo o be le leano le le tee la go thuša dikgwebopotlana tšeo gore re kgone go fenya ditlamorago tše di diilweng ke tšhollo ya merwalo yone yeo ke reng tšhollo ya merwalo ke ra gore load shedding. Minister, ka nnete re a dumela gore e sentše kudu go rakgwebopotlana tše dinyane, bjalo lenaneo la gago ke le lefeng? Ke a leboga modulasetulo.
Ra leboga. Tona.
Enkosi Mhlali ngaphambili. Njengoba bensitsho ngaphambili ukuthi siyasebenza nesebe elikamphathiswa uPatel elijongene norhwebo lwamashishini kunye ne-competition. Ukuqinisekisisa into yokuba urhulumente usebenza yedwa ngoba benditshilo into yoba isebe elisikulo lijongene noku-coordinator umsebenzi that talks to SMMEs. Now, i-Department of Trade, Industry and Competition isinikile i-list of localized products that we can tap into. This is meant to ensure that, as I indicated earlier, we are able to place certain entrepreneurs in the value chain of the renewable energies, not for them to continue being consumers, but for them to co-create and be able to participate in the space that we're talking about. Whether we're talking about maintenance, whether we're talking about repairs, and yes, Mhlonipek, it is a crisis that we are facing and the negative impact that is felt by small businesses. But we believe that when we work together as government and the private sector, because it is the private sector that must unbundle their supply chains so that small businesses can be able to participate meaningfully and effectively in the economy. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Meneer de Villiers.
Thank you. Minister, the National Small Enterprises Bill, which seeks to amend the current bill, it, as you alluded to, wants to amalgamate CEDA and CIFA, also create an ombudsman, which we support and I think would be very good for the industry. But it also seeks to give the minister new powers. These powers are very mysterious. They claim to identify unfair business practices, but the legislation is very unclear on what is unfair business practices, and it seems like the minister will, at her sole discretion, be able to identify these practices. Can the minister please explain to us, especially in light of micro enterprises and all of the different families and people who are involved in that industry, what would be an example of the use of these powers? What would she deem as being unfair practices that will be targeted with these new powers? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much. Mhlonipek, Apha eMzantsi Afrika siyabona njengoba abantu berhweba, whether sithetha emarenkini, espaza shop, egarage, kwisalon naphi na. Kunabantu abahleliyo bangabhatali irhafu. Kunabantu abahleli e-taxi rank bethengisa ukutya okubolileyo nakwezinye indawo. Now xa sithetha ngento yoba kubalulekile into yoba masinike umphathiswa wesebe some regulatory powers, into yoba kufuneka siqiniseke into yoba there's fair trade, because it can never be fair if there are those that are not compliant to the existing rules of the country. The second aspect, as much as you are talking about the Small Enterprise Act, which Section 18 stipulates that the minister must issue guidelines, which on the amendments that we are making, we are talking about not guidelines, but directives, specifically to intervene on an economy that has influx of people who refuse to be compliant and therefore live at the expense of others and deprive South Africa not only of creating jobs, but also of growing its own economy. Our South African businesses, big corporates and small, they are complaining of them being replaced. The laws of this country allow for everyone to trade, but they set perimeters. If you go to the Businesses Act, it is clear that for one to operate at a local level, they must be given a permit by a municipality. There's areas that are rezoned by municipalities, which are residential areas. There are areas reserved for business purposes, but we find people trading in the residential areas. Yes, it's because our people have crisis. But as much as they have crisis, it means we must assist them, which is why we emphasize the development aspect of the name of the Department, Small Business, to say we've got to assist them because they've taken an initiative to start a business, and therefore to help them comply with whatever that is required, because we use state taxpayers' monies to fund the businesses. Now, everybody has to be compliant in the regulation. This applies to both South Africans and non-South Africans that will not be compliant. But for South African businesses, I said, the department, including our CEDA, is there to assist them walk the path. On unfair trade, again, the issue that if you go to the Immigration Act, which is very clear on which foreigners can be able to trade in South Africa, an investment as determined by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, an investment amount of 5 million rands. Now we've seen so many countries in the region and worldwide that are able to identify and reserve certain businesses for their own citizens that vote for them and service the country so that they can curb unemployment. And that law, amongst other things, must be able to say, as we are expected to do, these areas, let them be reserved for this and that, in order to give effect to a true freedom, economic freedom of the people of South Africa. And that's what we intend to do in the legislation that we are amending. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Umhlonisha inkosi uLithuli.
Chair, if I may take the question on behalf of Inkos, thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, of course, the other consequence of load shedding has been the adverse impact on small businesses, some having to close down, and others, there have been massive job losses, job cuts, and so on. Now, that being the case, it happens in an environment where the UIF in itself is not in a manner, functioning in a manner which inspires public confidence, nor is it meeting its responsibilities to the best of its ability. So the question is, what interventions is your department having to assist the affected workers who've lost their jobs, working with the UIF, notwithstanding the challenges, to at the very least facilitate ease of process for those people who have to pay the brutal brunt of what load shedding has done? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Proceed, Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much, Mhlonipheki. We are working with the Department of Labor and specifically UIF in order to make sure that we can train those that lost their jobs, not only during COVID, but throughout the years. As things stand, we are awaiting an agreement that is looking at training about 7,200 people that will in turn be entrepreneurs. It's different sectors. In the beauty industry that we see, again, there's high levels of foreign influx, including people who are not compliant as South Africans. We're trying to formalize. One of the members mentioned the fact that Minister Nzimande was able to launch the hairdressing course that is funded by NSFAS. We're doing the same thing for the beauty industry because you can see women in South Africa and men and love looking good. And this is why when it's commercialized, our people must not be left behind. Amongst other things is the issue of film production in each and every township or village. Every weekend, there's a funeral that is photographed and videographed. So we're saying, let us tap into that. Make sure that we can skill these people that lost their jobs and turn them to be entrepreneurs, those that want to, because again, the fact that you are not employed, it doesn't mean automatically can be an entrepreneur, but those that want to work for entrepreneurs, they feel free to work for them. So those are the interventions that we are bringing across the different sectors and the different segments of our economy. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. No request was made for the fourth supplementary question. As we move now to question 302, asked by the Honorable Matulelwa. Minister, you may proceed.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. In June 2023, 33 informal and micro enterprises in Matatiele were supported with tools and equipment. The provision of these tools of trade was done by our department in partnership with local stakeholders and in particular the municipality of Matatiele, that is ANC-led. Key to this partnership is the understanding that together with the local small enterprise development agency branch, we support beneficiaries to receive non-financial business support, including marketing, business and financial skills development, access to opportunities within the municipality and beyond. We are working with municipalities to ensure that we help them understand the importance of having good LED strategies that must in turn be able to respond to the challenges first that are faced by the municipality, but also be able to identify economic growth drivers in the respective areas, so that when we all plug in from province and national, we are responding to a plan that the municipality has developed, and we come with all the support that we're talking about. This financial year, the previous financial year, 2022-2023, we have provided 226 skills development and other business development support interventions to SMMEs and cooperatives in Matatiele municipality alone. SEDA has reached to 267 SMMEs and cooperatives through entrepreneurship awareness sessions in Matatiele. 98 small enterprises have been trained on basic business skills. 25 of these have been approved for the wholesale and retail CETA program, wherein we're training them on entrepreneurship, we're assisting them with everything that talks to retail, and be able to provide them with stock management training and the stock itself. In addition to the above, SEDA has provided support to nine formal businesses through the flood relief program to the value of 6 million. Informal businesses and financial support that was provided by SIFA, supporting SMMEs within Matatiele, just between last year and now. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Who's taking the question? Ma'am Suwisi?
Thank you, Chair. Minister, I hear that this is what you've done in Matatiele, but Matatiele is not the only rural area where there's a problem about SMMEs and women that want to venture to be entrepreneurs. An example that I'm going to make is women in Umhlabuya Lingana. There are women that are doing baskets. They don't get the platform, nor are they being recognized. It goes to such an extent that some people are exploiting them because these women would sell their baskets for close to 50 rands. And then there are people that are coming in and buying them and go to eThekwini. Some of them are even coming to Cape Town. And they are going to sell these things for more money, which goes to close to 500 rands. So what are we doing about women that are in Umhlabuya Lingana, that are sitting there, the most stricken place of poverty, and these women are only relying on that? What are the plans of the minister to ensure that those women are also getting the support that women or other entrepreneurs are getting in Matatiele?
Sithokoze, Mhlonishwa.
Ngiyabonga Mhlonishwa, enene namakhosikazi asemhlabuya Lingana kubalekile nawo ukuthi afumane lamaqethi siwenzayo njengesebe. Kodwa nje mhlonitshwa kungeyonyani ukuthi amakhosikazi asemhlaba uyalingana zange asibona okanye uncedo karhulumente. Ngo-August kulo nyaka lo sikuwo, umphathiswa lo ume apho uthethayo ubesuka phaya negqiza lakhe lesebe siyonikezela i-equipment kumakhosikazi nabantu abatsha balandawo. Kwaphaya emhlaba uyalingana sakhile i-structure ese-hawkers uba zikwazi into yoba zitrade endaweni noke decent zinganethwa xa funa ziyosebenza. I-taxi rank luyibona phaa isakhiwo izawufaka ne-shopping complex nayo incediswe lisebe elisithetha ngalo. Zonke ke ezi zasemhlaba uyalingana. Andikathethi ngoMzantsi Afrika wonke ozofika kwezinye indawo sesitatshile ezibe senditshilo but ngenxa yobuncinane bebudget asikatatshi wonke umntu. Kodwa sifikelele kuye sifikelele sizawufikelela ngenye imini nakwabanye. Enkosi mhlali ngaphansi.
Sithokoze mhlonishwa. Mam Maneli. Honorable Maneli. Okay, the whip will take it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Chair. Maybe let me take the question of Honorable Maneli. What are the objectives of the National Minister? What are the objectives of the National Informal Business Upliftment Strategy Program, and what have been the deliverables from this program for micro enterprises and cooperatives in different parts of the country? I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much, Whip. The National Informal Business Upliftment Strategy seeks to do two things, which center around the upliftment of informal businesses and micro enterprises, and further render support to local chambers and local business associations and municipal local economic development forums and the offices that are the municipalities. We are focusing on those because it's important that we get bodies organized so that they can influence and inform the policies that we are making and be able to join government in the work that they do. The programs that I'm referring to that I said are the neighbors is centralized around. Is the one that I spoke about earlier, the IMEDP, the one that provides equipment to the micro businesses. It goes up to 10,000 rands as things stand, but we have made a request again to increase it to 30,000 rands to all the informal businesses that qualify. The second one is the shared economic infrastructure facility. As I mentioned, that most of the businesses are complaining that they can't afford rentals. Others are saying the places that we are trading from are not decent enough. So we then said, let us join hands with the municipalities and the private sector to make sure that we can build decent structures wherein these businesses can be housed. And those are the objectives of the neighbors. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you. Inkosi Luthuli Mhlengwa. Ungayithatha ba?
Yini nithuswa yini ngu-spokesperson umsebenzi wami ukwazi yonke into yenkathi ningesabi Chairperson.
Ayihambile ama-minutes.
Discretion, thank you very much. Minister, obviously government's current standard operating procedure is the DDM, and much of the work that you do requires cooperation with municipalities. Of course, we all know that the state of health of the municipality in Matatiele is a problem. There have been calls, amongst others, for us to place under Section 139 because of financial management, which is questionable. What work are you doing to assist that municipality so that your programs don't get lost, insofar as ensuring that you respond to the governance challenges there? Otherwise, it becomes fruitless and wasteful expenditure to rely on people whom down the line will not be able to sustain the initiatives that you have so eloquently explained. Thank you.
Honorable.
Thank you so much, Mhlone Peggy. Earlier on, I made reference to us working with the LED offices at the municipal level. This is because they're a critical stakeholder to the work that we do, because small businesses, they trade at that level. Now, you are correct to say most of the municipalities have a challenge in relation to driving local economic development. which is why we then partnered with the respective departments in terms of higher education, training, and science and innovation, including UIF, to say there's lots of unemployed graduates in our country. Can we take them and place them in the municipalities in order to assist us with the challenges that are faced by municipalities? The LGCTA is also looking at giving us a number of graduates that must go and be mentored by the people that are there. Of course, we've also approached the National School of Government to design a program that must assist them in understanding what is that they have to do. It is true that most municipalities are struggling, especially in terms of financial management, and this is why Minister Thembi Gandemek does not sleep, ensuring that they are working every day with the minister responsible for National Treasury to identify the gaps so that they can be able to complement whatever skills that are lacking in that level, because the municipalities are the coal face of development of the people that we serve. This is why we're saying when we put the DDM, it was meant to bring all the intergovernmental stakeholders to make sure that we work in a coherent manner. And as a result, we've appointed DDM coordinators ourselves to make sure that they can coordinate all of that work, not only to focus on one local municipality or one stakeholder. I hope you are satisfied with the answer. Thank you so much.
It's really. Thank you. There was no fourth request for the fourth supplementary question here. That werkt nie so nie. Now, honorable members, the time allocated for all questions has expired, and the outstanding replies received will be printed on Hansard. May I request members to stand and wait for the chair and the maids to leave the chamber. That concludes the business of the day, and the House is adjourned.